Good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gents, and welcome back to yet again another ZRL pre-race show. Back again with my buddy Drip. Drip, welcome to the show. How you been, man?
Not too bad. It's good to get back in the seat last night and let's close off the season.
Exactly. I'm also excited for the last race here for the Zoom Racing League. For this season, obviously. So, beginning with the track, I would say Silverstone is a pretty straightforward track. It's got its its long, slow corners, and it's got also two DRS zones. So I believe, talking about DRS trains, I believe it's gonna be, fairly important to keep a pace because I believe if you compare pace to someone with DRS zone without someone within the DRS zone versus someone without the DRS zone, I think the difference can be up to 1 second. What do you think, Drip?
Oh, definitely. DRS and gap management are going to be very important around here. It's a track that's constantly flowing. You're constantly on the gas. There are a few like heavy braking zones,
Mm-hmm.
but you're right back on the throttle again. You can't afford to really have that chance where you're not going at the same speed as those cars around you.
I agree. I agree. And also I think it's very interesting because once you're in the DRS zone you're saving battery, right? And you kind of have, this for example in Hangar Straight, when you're in one big DRS train, you kind of have time to think about, do I go for that undercut or do I wait for clean air? So I wait for all the cars in front of me to pit, and I, I try to put in, some fire bankers 2 3 laps, draining my battery, and try to go for the overcut. There's I think both strategies could be viable, but considering the track layout and the level of pace there's in D1, I think that the undercut is going to be much more powerful. So let's talk a bit about strategy. Would you go, for example, into the main race, not the sprint? Would you go soft medium, or would you try the alternate strategy?
Well, last night I ran soft medium,
All right.
and
How was that?
I did think about the medium soft strategy.
Okay.
But it's the pace advantage off the start on the softs and the importance of track position here, like we're bringing up with DRS and ERS management. Like it's too important to give that up on hopes of a medium. That and this with how many high speed, little flick, hope and a pray corners there are here, aka cops, Abbey, things like that.
Try not
You
to lose the back end.
there's very risk for a safety car. So starting off on the long strategy is not really optimal, or at least I didn't think so. And apparently most of Division 3 thought the same.
True. I mean, you're right in that because, for example, me, in the sprint race, I had an incident on lap one, and I went with the mediums. So my plan for the sprint race was try to go, 6 7 laps on the mediums, and then be super fast on the softs and try to gain positions. But since I had an incident lap one, I lost my wing. I had to pit, so I believe you could make those softs last 12 laps, but I think during the moment I kind of panicked and I went for the hard, so I lost all the pace. So I believe, yeah,
Definitely.
I
The hard
believe, yeah,
the hards are definitely a tire that do not hook up around here, and it doesn't seem to make sense, but
useless.
you're significantly slower on that tire if you get stuck on that compound.
Hmm.
Just pray there's going to be a safety car and you get a free chance to change again.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, I believe since it's the one, we're gonna see a lot of guys going for super aggressive undercuts, especially in the sprint race. So maybe even lap 3 4, trying to go for those mediums and just put some banker laps, trying to push as much as you can in clean air. And I think it's gonna be a race where most of all the driver is gonna have to be very aware of when his rivals speed, and what times his rivals are making while in clean air. Because as we saw in D4, I think we saw a couple of undercuts. The one I remember was I think corrupt on Alex, and some other, I believe. But yeah, I mean, undercut is super powerful around Silverstone, so I think drivers are gonna have to be very, very aware of that. And
Definitely.
yeah,
The pit window is probably the most important part of this race. Like, if you come out and you're in free air, yes, you don't have dirty air in front of you, but you also don't have the beauty of DRS.
exactly. You don't have the
So it's
extra
a little
beauty.
bit of a double-edged sword. English, kind of have to time the gap a little perfect
Hmm.
or else. And
True.
I know a lot of D1 drivers, D2, even some D3 use race engineers, so I think they'll have to be on their toes tonight.
True. 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 Because like you said, you have to time it right because Silverstone is one of the longest pit lanes in in the game. You know,
It's
it's
definitely one of the worst.
yeah. Those first, I agree about that. So so managing to build that gap to try to get back into the track with clean air, but also in range of someone's DRS is gonna be tricky. It's gonna be super tricky, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see what's gonna happen. So now, to switch it up a little bit, I think we want to congratulate the new D1 drivers champion, Mr. Hudson Poole. He is officially champion. Yep, there's nobody who can catch him now. Even if he DNFs, he's got it on the back. So now I think for him, this race is gonna be more of like a, exhibition. Trying to taking it easy, see what having fun. I would say trying to help Duncan secure that P2 spot because I think that one's in play, right? Or could be in play.
Uh,
Or is P3? No, sorry.
it's very it's very, very close. In order for Ian to catch Duncan, he would need 36 points. So that would mean Duncan would have to DNF, Ian would have to win and get the fastest lap.
Okay.
I got some faith in Ian
He,
doing the second half, but you can't really predict whether or not Duncan will DNF or anybody will. So
true, true,
the
true, true.
big playing game is going to be P3. We've got P3 all the way down to P6
Hmm.
within less than 20 points of each other, and I feel like that can jump around a lot. Who out of that group do you think is going to take P3?
So, looking at them right now, I would say it's because they're all super fast. They're all super fast. I mean, Ian, Travis, Peter, and the Gator, Jason. Has been in such an incredible form recently. I don't know what the guy's been eating or doing, but he's been driving super fast. I mean, he's been proving himself. I think you guys at Alfa Romeo must be super happy with him. So I don't know.
Definitely.
I think Travis is super consistent. I believe he hasn't been he hasn't been winning as much as he has last season, but he still scores podiums. He's got the pace, he's got the speed. So I'd say it's a tough call. I'd say Ian. I'd say Ian's gonna clutch it. He's gonna stick with P3. How about you?
Well, hopefully Ian doesn't get stuck with any of the actual Ferrari strategists this weekend, and maybe he can pull off what he wants to pull off. But I have a hard time betting against my fellow Canadian Travis Robinson. Like you pointed out, he's a very consistent driver, and just looking over the last few performances of everybody in that group, he seems to have regularly placed higher than those around him, other than a few races earlier on where Ian did succeed. But
Okay.
Ian's had a little bit of DNFs recently and some lower finishes. So come on, Travis, bring it home.
I just hope Ian's wheel doesn't misbehave, man. That's all I want.
Yeah, that'd be a total shame.
Because every time you see Ian just flying through the field, just chilling on the track, and then you see him on the straight, just the car just does this and into the wall, and you go like, okay, his wheel just deceed.
Yeah,
So yeah,
you hate to see it. I've had it happen a few times to me before in races, and not in this game in Assetto Corsa, but it's worse when you're stopped in the middle of the track with a stalled car that you can't turn back on.
exactly, and yeah, it's at that
You're
point
just
where
a sitting duck.
exactly you don't know what to do. You're just sitting there with the yellow flags and just
Yep,
nothing to do. So
hope and a prayer.
yeah. So exactly. Speaking of, in terms of constructors, we know as well Red Bull has won the constructors, right? I think there are solid 100.
127 points ahead.
Damn. Okay, all right. So so yeah, I think
Apologies.
Duncan's gonna be pretty happy with the Rebel team all around. Merck, that's something I also want to talk about. The fight between Red Bull and Merck this season across the our four divisions. It has been exciting. It has been pretty, entertaining to watch. So I think both of the team principals made solid choices on their drivers, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see what this finale uh, brings us. No.
Definitely. The we do have the combined constructor standings, and the one I'm looking at right now isn't updated past Canada.
Okay.
But going into Canada,
Mm.
Red Bull and Mercedes were only split by 2 points across all of the divisions combined. So it's been a tight fight. But just in D1 alone, we've got 2 and 3 fighting it out. We've got 3 and 4 fighting it out. It's going to be a lot of decisions made tonight, and yeah, hopefully a good race. Silverstone. A lot of people like it. A lot of people don't. There's no in between.
Do you think we're gonna see a 25-1, 24-9 in quali? Think someone's crazy enough to go for that time?
I think it's the end of the year and people are like, F it, there's nothing left. I got nothing to lose. I think people are going to put it
Full
all on
send.
the line. I don't think anything's off the table.
I would do that, just full send it, just trying to get as close as I can to the
Go
exit.
for it.
And just
Exactly.
I would like to see, some low 25s, even high 24s. Who knows? Who knows? All we know is it's gonna be exciting.
These guys will pull it out of their back pocket.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I was starting to see, the DRS train, because I think from D2 to D3, even D4, we saw even I think it was 7, 8, even 9 car DRS trains. So I think that was pretty cool. Like seeing that now we don't see no 2, 3, 4 cars like we saw before. Before it's just we see like one big DRS, which is pretty cool to see on the broadcast. Cars trying to break the tow. So it's exciting.
It's like a big game of Snake.
Exactly. And also the pressure is on because the one little mistake, one corner that you don't break enough, and the guy behind you, he won't give you an inch. He's gonna say, okay, you
No.
overbroke. That's my corner, man, buddy. Sorry.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
As well as the 3 guys right behind him.
Exactly. That's the thing. So you go on it. Mine. So yeah,
Exactly.
I'm excited for Silverstone. Anything else you would like to add? Drip.
Not really. Just thanks to everybody who's found the league, joined the league, and come out to watch the league throughout the course of the season. It's
Absolutely.
been we've done a lot of growing as we do every season, but it's been I don't even know how to put into words how fast and how crazy it's been, how big this league has gotten, and the show that our admins put on for us, the environment they bring us, and the community we got. So on to season 4
Yep, completely agree. So
or season 5, whatever we are on next. I've lost count.
for the new season. Anyhow, this is it for our episode, folks. Enjoy the show. We got a really really exciting race coming up. So don't go anywhere. Grab some food, grab some drinks, and we'll be right back for the race.
Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are, folks. Once again, it is time. The fastest of the fast, the best of the best for the last time in Division 1 in F1 2021. It is Zoom Racing League live from Silverstone, Britain, the historic Grand Prix circuit, the old airfield. A very long 5.89 mile track, little over 3 kilometers. A lot of turns to deal with, 2 DRS zones, not a whole lot of elevation change, but some good chances to overtake, whether it's on the Hanger Straight or the Wellington Straight. We are in for a banger tonight, missing a lot of faces. We have 9 reserves in the pipeline for this race tonight. We're going to be doing our regular short qualifying, and then, folks, it is a sprint qualifying race, a 25% distant race, a 13-lap sprint to set the grid for the feature race. Take a look at the drivers and constructor standings, and well, folks, it's already wrapped up. Hudson Pool is your season 4 division 1 champion, so back-to-back victories for Red Bull in the P1 seat. Last year it was Travis Robinson. This time Hudson Pool takes it home. Constructors championship goes again to Red Bull. Still tight enough there that we cannot call Mercedes or Ferrari for P2. Mercedes tonight will be missing Travis Robinson. Who is here to replace him? A new driver that you saw last night in Division 2 on the podium, Major Castleman. He showed great pace against Thermo, against Sid, and against Johannes, which means he's going to have pretty good pace here, Big Mama Frank. And I think as exciting as Division 2 was, this has a chance, even though there's no titles on the line tonight, I think this has a chance to be a very exciting race as well.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's not going to be the kind of the next season D1 preview we were a little bit hoping for, because so many people kind of backed out at the last second, but we still have a lot of guys here who will kind of make up for that. We have Eruption and Lewis Piper, who will be in our Division 2 next season, but easily have D1 pace. So they're going to be filling in for us tonight, and I think that's going to make a really big difference. I am excited to see Major Castleman too. He just kind of, I think he just joined the league just yesterday, right before the D2 race. So it's nice to see him. So when I saw his name, I instantly knew, that dude's gonna be up there. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited. One last race to go, man, and then we can finally put this game to bed, really.
Absolutely. We've already seen a couple of guys in Division 3 and Division 2 go ahead and uninstall the game early. Got a question up in the chat for you. Loads of new faces in D1 for the final race. We got to see Eric Carvalho and Lewis Piper last week. So Rhapsody and Lewis Piper were here last week. Lots of votes right now for Lewis Piper. Major Castleman made his debut last night, but Maxime Boulou is not to be trifled with. This is Eric Carvalho, Rhapsody's teammate. They are a package deal. They race together in the top America's tier in MRL. They've come over to ZRL. They're going to be racing here. And tonight, they're going to be teammates in the AlphaTauris. That is exciting if you're OG, because both of your drivers are out, and you get 2 drivers that work very well together, that are top tier drivers. And so we may see a bit of a shakeup, and we may see the possibility of some AlphaTauris who are very low in the standings right now. If we look back at the standings again, AlphaTauri down there towards the bottom. Razor Senna filling in last minute for Lee Hall. Jack Fletcher, Mr. Consistency, little inconsistent this year, but we may see some of those AlphaTauris up near the front. And I think that's going to be exciting as we look at the future of this league. Also want to give a big shout out to 2 of the guys that I mentioned there, and a couple others. Dago earlier today, Hudson Pool, who's out tonight, Eric Carvalho, and I'm going blank. Help me out here. Who was the other one we had? We had four people today in the Grid Finder. And the Grid Finder, that was absolutely a banger of a race. It was so exciting. A little bit dirty, but we had a couple of guys that race here that were flying under the ORL banner, and a couple of our guys racing under the ZRL banner. So Eruption, that was the other one. Eruption was the other one in the McLaren. And so we had some of our faces, 4 faces that you have here, a couple racing under a different banner, but under a cool league versus league format over in Grid Finder. But Big Mama Frank, taking a look out the window here, it's gonna be wet quality.
Yeah, that's very similar to what we had to deal with last night in the D2. The only difference, I think, this is just full commit, heavy or extreme wet tires, rather than what we saw yesterday. It was kind of like a crossover between intermediates and wets. We are seeing, maybe it's the same thing, because we're seeing people go out on intermediates, so maybe we're seeing something similar.
Like Marino is going to be our first one to exit the pit lane. Division 3 did not have any wet conditions. It was only Division 4 and Division 3, so no real advantage for Marino, the D3 driver, nor will there be for Freddie Brazil. May have a little bit of an advantage here since he got to qualify last night on those wet tires, but let's see who else is filling in tonight. Eruption in D2, got to run on those wet tires. Barney Goatmere's D3, so he did not have any wet running. So it's going to be very interesting to see here, and we're going to get to see some of the guys. And we saw last week in Canada in the wet, we saw some great pace out of Lewis Piper. So we know he can run well in the wet. So we'll see what he could do here in qualification around Silverstone.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like when we the more of these like really competent drivers we bring in, like it kind of raises the bar of expectations for these wet conditions, since it just seems like if you're fast, you also just kind of have this innate kind of instinct for adapting for these kind of conditions.
All right, so as Marino takes us around, we come around through Sector 2, or finishing up Sector 2 here to open up Sector 3 through Maggots and Beckett's. I think that's going to be one of the trickiest spots here in the wet, because drivers will need to stay off those curbs as much as possible. One of the things that I got dinged for in the D4 race is I had a couple of engineers, including Siggy, working with me, is I have been driving GT3 cars so much that I was taking a lot of those sausage curbs. I was abusing the curbs to kind of help hook and rotate the car, and they're like, dude, you're losing so much time doing that. These cars don't do that. They don't handle the curbs the way a GT3 does, as we see Marino give a little kiss to the curb there at the exit as he spins at the exit of Vale coming around to Club Corner. So we will say goodbye to him for a while, and we'll check in with Eruption as he begins a flyer, and we will ride on board with him as we come through turn 1. This is Abby through the farm curb down towards Village, break just before the curbing, take it down to third, maybe second for some of the folks here in the wet. You're going to upshift early, take the first left through the loop. You want to compromise your entry here because the exit is so important, because you can carry so much speed here through Aintree. And down this Wellington straight is the first of the 2 DRS zones, and this is where some of the strategy will come in during the race, where guys are trading DRS back and forth. You don't want to give this one up to lose it on the next one. Takes it nice and tight through Brooklands, and you go a little bit wide here through Luffield to bring it back in tight, almost a double apex. You want a late apex here, later on the power than you think, because you can lose it off there into the gravel. And now down the back main straight, the GT3 start finish straight, the old pit straight, and through Cops, the scene of that horrific incident last year in the real F1 race, and a corner that will definitely test your bravery. And as you come down through Cops, you're going to enter into Maggots and then Beckett's with the left back to right. And this is another one where you've got to get a really good exit, because you run too wide, you're going to hit that grass over there. As you come around Chapel down the hanger straight, this is full commit, full throttle, dumping battery. If you're trying to fight or defend for a position, you're going to come all the way down to Stowe, break right there at the beginning of the curbing, down a couple of gears, down to 5th here. Later apex here, and you're going to get all the way back over to the right as you come up to Vale, break right at the curbing, down to 2nd gear, keep it tight, but stay off the sausage, easy on the power, stay off the sausage there, and the sausage at the exit, and finally come around Club Corner, down the Hamilton straight, and that is a lap around Silverstone.
Yeah, Piper right behind him, like almost quite a bit of a difference there. I think he almost ran into the back of Eruption towards the end of that lap.
That is crazy fast, half a second faster than Eruption. Slipstream, you'd say maybe came into effect, but really in the wet, I don't think it's helping you that much, because then I think you're probably just braking that much earlier if you're getting closer to dry speeds.
Yeah, it was just 5/10 just on the first 2 sectors, and Slipstream's not going to give you that much time.
It looks like Freddie Raz has, he's starting a flying lap there. I don't know if he invalidated previously. Check in with Duncan McCamick as he comes around the line and goes P8 with a 1:38.3. So he is 2.5 seconds off of Lewis Piper and his teammate Eruption right now. Tom Hatcap does him one better. Jack Pemberton in P8. Major Castleman in P5 in his Mercedes debut. Anand Trivedi in P6. Beamer and G putting in a really good lap there. Barney Goatmere with a decent lap of a 1:36.2.
One thing we saw from Major Castleman last night in the D2 qualifying, because it was similar conditions, he just went out and did, I think, 8 laps in a row and got pole position on his 8th and final lap. So that may be something we'll see a lot of people do here, is just put a whole bunch of fuel in and just do laps after laps after laps, just to get a feel for the conditions.
No, Lewis Piper is our new Rainmeister, it appears, replacing Joel Guron as the god in the rain. He is up almost 4/10 on his time, has gotten clear of Eruption. I don't know if Eruption just pulled over to let him through, but here's Lewis Piper finishing up his lap, and he is up 4/10, almost 4/10, 3.367. So a 35.2 improves by almost half a second. Man, this dude's flying. He seems to enjoy the wet conditions. Doesn't seem to bother him at all.
Yeah, really impressive. Over a second advantage between him and the next person so far. So
Tom Hatcap goes a second faster to move up to P6 temporarily, then moves back down to P7. There's Damian Doe up into P5, and Barney Goatmere goes P3. Provisional P3. It'd be an amazing start for the D3 driver. Real young guy, very, very happy, full of energy, and certainly full of words is Barney Goatmere. Did a great job in Mercedes in Division 3, finished P3 in the championship, and right now sitting P3 in that McLaren. As Damian immediately takes a spot from him, the Alfa Romeo Orland Sauber Racing Team Ferrari-powered unit. Arrow has joined the session at the last minute. Not sure what's happening there. I guess he's going to try to fill in for the Aston Martins. He will have to immediately retire in the pits, will not be able to join the session, so he'll be starting P20 irrespective of what happens.
yeah, I think Thermo was meant to fill that seat, but he made a boo-boo and uninstalled this game. So
Made a boo-boo. Yes, he did. Unfortunately, Codemasters and Steam had other plans for the Barbadian driver, so he will be done for the season. Finished out on a strong note for us here in ZRL. Did the broadcast the other night with you, and then pulled out a win in Division 2. So nice, strong end of the season for him, and we appreciate him stepping up last minute to try to help fill that gap for the Division 3 broadcast. What Jordan Angus can do here.
Piper and Eruption are going into the pits, so maybe they didn't have all that much fuel, and they would prefer, since it's just going to be dry race and we're just going to be in the sprint race, and we'll have fresh tires for the feature race, maybe they just think the fresh rubber is more important than the kind of momentum that you build by doing a bunch of laps.
Okay, so getting word from the pit lane that Arrow messed up and he's going to jump out right now. Waiting to see what's going to happen as far as the Aston Martins. They're in a battle right now. They need to make something happen, and they need to make it happen soon if they're going to make sure they secure that spot from McLaren in the and get their first picks there. Aston Martin picking ahead of McLaren, I don't think is something we would have necessarily expected as we went into the draft before Season 4, but Aston Martin's had some really nice, competent drives. And McLaren, a little bit of up and down, lost a couple drivers in Division 1, replaced them with some really good drivers, and then another one disappeared, and now running 2 reserves for the final race.
Yeah, it's certainly kind of been a season to forget for McLaren D1, outside of the fact that Dago has just kind of been very, very impressive in his short time in the seat. But yeah, for the most part, they've had a little bit of trouble maintaining people in their seats.
Well, taking a look over at the chat, I got a whoa there, Rivas, because apparently Joe Guron is not happy with my call, saying that he has been replaced as the Rain Meister and the Rain God, Lewis Piper. And then I think I may have seen, unless my eyes deceive me, Joe Guron has joined the session.
Yeah, yes. It appears that Thermo says that he is filling in for him because Thermo's game is corrupted. So,
here comes Major Castleman, currently sat in P10. Didn't get a good look at whether he was up on his time or not, but as he comes around onto the Hamilton straight, goes 4/10 faster up to P6. So we do have a Mercedes in the top 10. The other Mercedes of Victor Diaz still sitting in the pits currently. Not sure what's going on there, but Victor needs to get a move on if he wants to try to close this out and make sure that Mercedes stays ahead of Ferrari here.
yeah, hopefully he's not dealing with any kind of technical difficulties, because that'd be the first reason why I would think he's not out yet, since the conditions are going to be steady for this entire session.
Duncan McCamick starting an out lap. Eruption on an out lap. See if we can go a little further back. Peter Giordano goes up to P2 with a 36 flat. Good lap from him. Freddie Razzle has invalidated. He is also on an out lap, filling the Alpine team president outgoing. He will be vacating the Alpine team boss role at the end of the season in a Ferrari. Wonder if there's some little backroom dealings there. Maybe he and Peter already have worked something out for next season. And will we see Freddie Razzle in Division 2 or Division 3? I'm not sure how he's going to sort out in one of the Ferrari seats. That would be interesting.
Well, I don't expect Raz to stay in D2 since he only scored 5 points, at least before last night. So I think on the sorting table right now, he is D3. So yeah, he's at the bottom of the D3 in the sorting table at the moment.
All right, folks, there he is. Not sure why he didn't immediately retire in the pits. Hopefully that doesn't do anything to lobby, but there is Joel Guron. There is the Rain Maestro come to claim his crown from Lewis Piper. Gonna have to do a lot of work there. Normally when a driver joins late during quali, we have them retire in the pits. So I'm not exactly sure what Joel's doing here. Hopefully nothing goes wrong here. Be cool to see him set a good lap, but we'll see what happens.
Pretty sure that's old news at this point. At least in all of the practice lobbies we've done where people are always dragging their feet to get in the lobby and they're having them join mid-session. We haven't had really any issues since we had those issues in the past. So I think we're, not really thinking about whatever our current rules are. I think it'll be okay.
Duncan McCamick into the pit, aborts his lap. 5 minutes left to go in quali. It is Lewis Piper from Eric Carvalho, Rhapsody, Major Castleman, Peter Giordano, Jack Pemberton, Barney Goatmere, Eruption, Damian Doe, Freddie Razzle in P9, and Beamer NG, Anand Trivedi in P10. Maxime Bolu down in P11. Wonder if we're going to see any improvement there. And he's got a little bit of traffic in front of him, and we'll check his sector times here shortly. And I can't tell if he's up on his time or not. It looks like a nice clean line there through Cops as he comes through Maggots and Beckett, starting to catch up to the back of Eruption there. Again, the slipstream not really that powerful in the wet.
I wonder if, because I saw Duncan go out, do an out lap, and then go right back in. So what we might be seeing is the conditions are actually changing to full wets, and the inters are kind of over. So the people who got their laps done on inters early in the session have benefited quite well, and we may just be in a full wet conditions at this point because it seems like everyone is kind of struggling to improve their time.
Well, the good news for these drivers is that all of them are going to have free tire choice, assuming that it's a dry session into the race, because when you qualify on the wet tires, you will be able to get whatever you want. So Maxime Bulo does move it into the top 10. So we have both AlphaTauris, and if you are OG Mr. Campbell, Lowry Hart, you are jumping up and down, at least for the time being, because again, he's another one of our team principals that will be abandoning his post and moving on to take care of other things in his life. And so we have a couple of team principal spots open. Also the Williams, Ryan Zebra will be remaining as an admin, but leaving his responsibilities as a team principal for Williams. So there'll be 3 announcements coming up very shortly. And folks, you may want to kind of start sniffing around and see if you can figure out who those folks are, if those are the drives that you want to see yourself in. Blake Reed goes P12 behind Beamer and G, so the Haas is up there right in the middle of the pack, and that's good news if you're Gunman der Flossie.
So we finally have Victor Diaz on the track.
And he has
validated his first push, so he's may only have time for one more. Ooh, almost spins there.
Yeah, with 3 minutes go in quali, it's a little late in the game to be figuring stuff out, and like Victor has pulled over to let some cars through. Wise to do there. Don't want to impede anybody and risk a penalty. Of course, if you're already starting in P20, there's not much a penalty can do to you at this point. All right, Major Castleman comes around onto the Hamilton straight. No improvement on his time there. That may have just been a side-end lap just to get an idea, like you said, on the conditions. Eruption goes up to P3, pushes Major Castleman down. Peter Giordano still in P5. Looks like he is about to finish up a lap. He gets pushed down to P6. Here comes Peter Giordano. Can he improve on his time? He cannot. Actually, 8,000 slower there. So we may actually be seeing the conditions deteriorate. Duncan McCamick, P19, did not improve his time that time across the line. Victor Diaz, of course, had invalidated. Let's check. Is this Joel Guron coming around to set a time, his first time? Very slow lap right here. That is a 136.7, only good enough for P12. But Joel, for the first lap, his first timed lap, not bad.
No, not too bad. I mean, he did have a moment last night where he was momentarily on pole in the D2 race, or D2 qualifying session. And so that, that little last gas of the rain god thing, but he fell down pretty quickly after that.
Here comes Lewis Piper. He is up yet another 10th on his pole time as he comes down, and Anand Trivedi is done. I guess he retired on track. Car is moving, so he's done. Doesn't think he can do any more damage in this. Here comes Lewis Piper, 35 flat. He goes another 2/10 faster. Joel Guron, I think your title has been snatched, sir.
Sheesh. And Duncan also spun out at Cops, ran to the wall, so I think his session is done.
All right, Major Castle will be the next one across the line to try to set a time that improves. He does actually goes 0.3 faster up to P3 for Major Castleman. Eruption next across the line goes P2, pips Eric Carvalho. And is that Eric coming across the line next? It is not. It is his teammate Maxime. And he is slightly up on his time, goes 0.3 faster, moves up to P7 from P10. Peter Giordano goes up to P4. Barney Goatmere will be next across the line. No, it'll be Marino, the Italian driver, and he is done and out. And Victor Diaz, has he set a valid time? He has. And Victor Diaz goes P10. Finally sets a valid time and goes P10 into the top 10 in the Mercedes. Goes Victor Diaz. Good recovery there for him. Jack Pemberton is in P8. His teammate Joel Guron gets pushed all the way down to P15 with just enough time to set one more lap. Has Joel Guron. Let's see what Jack Pemberton can do here. He's up almost 1/10 on his time. Currently sat in P8. 1/10 would be enough to take the spot from Maxime as he comes around the corner. Blake Reed is done for the session. P8 stays Jack Pemberton. He cannot improve enough to do any damage there. We've got an AlphaTauri getting ready to come through. Is that Era Carvalho, 2/10 faster. Was in P3, goes P2. Lewis Piper goes even faster, a sub 35 on the intermediate tires. What a lap.
Man, this guy right now is just kind of is just straight smashing everybody. 0.5 separates him between him and is the difference between him and P2 right now.
That's insane. It's crazy fast. Duncan McCamick done. Eruption coming around and crosses the line in style backwards, but not enough to improve. Will stay P3. We'll give you points for style, but it's not going to move you up any further in the race. Mr. Eruption. Eric Carvalho done for the session. It looks like very slow. It looks like on this lap. Barney Goatmere in the pit. Marino setting a valid lap, up 0.9, fully a second faster, moves up to P14. So Joe Goron now pushed all the way down to P17. Looks like he is done for the session. Next across the line, next across the line, yeah, Joel Goron's parked it. He is done. Jack Pemberton would be our next one to set a time here. He's invalidated his time, so no reason to watch that. Let's check in with Jordan Angus. Jordan Angus coming up right behind Jack Pemberton. So Canadian, then Canadian. One's invalidated. The other has time to set a valid lap here. Minute 53 to finish the laps, but qualifying is essentially done for most of our drivers. Brings it nice and tight through the Vale chicane. And here comes Jordan Angus, P15. Can he improve? Yes, he can. Goes 0.2 faster, but stays in P15. Not quite enough there at the end. Let's see, who can we grab next? Lewis Piper on another valid lap. Improves even further with a 34.8. This dude is nuts.
Man, Division 2 is going to be something else next season.
Oh, yeah, so
with him and Eruption.
Yeah, so folks, just keep that in mind. Lewis Piper is going to be locked to Division 2. He's a Scottish driver and cannot always make the D1 times, especially when it's non-summer hours. And so he's going to be a Division 2 driver. So he's going to be in the mix with Johannes, with Sid, with Eruption. Division 2 is going to be just as nutty and just as fast as Division 1. So on pole, once again, showing out in the rain, Lewis Piper puts it on pole in the Alpine. Eric Carvalho, Rhapsody goes P2 in an AlphaTauri. The Red Bull of Eruption, P3. Peter Giordano, the team principal and two-time champion here in the Ferrari P2. Hey, a pair of Mercedes. If you're Toto Rivas, you're happy to see that. Major Castleman and Victor Diaz go P5, P6. P7 goes to Maxime Boulou in an AlphaTauri, even though he is a Mercedes driver. What an incredible top 10 as we continue down the order. The Alfa Romeo, Damien Doe. The Ferrari of Fred Razzle. And Jack Pemberton, the Canadian goaltender, in the Aston Martin for the final time this season. Folks, that is it for Quali. If you haven't already, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Let us know in the chat who you think is going to win the sprint. Can the guys up front hold on? It doesn't look like it's going to be wet for the sprint race. Looks like it's going to be dry. So can Lewis Piper translate that success in the wet over to the dry? We'll find out in just a few moments. We'll be right back. All right, folks, we are back. That break brought to you by Rivas Needed Water. Had to wet my whistle after watching these guys soak up all the lap time and all the water out there in Silverstone. I needed a drink. Tonight's race is brought to you by Stonic Hard Seltzer Tropical Variety Pack. So, Big Mama Frank, what we're going to do something different. They're not an official sponsor, but we're going to give this a go to see what it would be like to have a sponsor. So I have in front of me the Sonic Hard Seltzers, the Tropical Variety Pack. I have 4 to choose from here. Orange Pineapple, Mango Guava, Ocean Water, or Melon Medley, and I'm going to let you choose the first one, sir.
Dude, that last one, that's a cool name.
Melon Medley. Okay, so let's check this out. As the drivers come around the formation lap, it is Lewis Piper from Eric Carvalho from Eruption, Peter Giordano, a pair of Mercedes and Major Castleman and Victor Diaz, Maxime B, Damian Doe, Freddie Razzle, and Jack Pemberton. Look out early here on the start. Oh, the orange pineapples are in front. I opened the wrong end. I'm gonna have to do a little reshuffling of the hard seltzer grid here. AWS predicted pit stop strategy, soft to medium. This will be a one-stop race. It is a requirement in this game, even for the sprint race, to do the one stop. In the next game, it will take on the actual F1 rules, and we will not have to worry about a stop. Points will be awarded for the sprint race as follows. P1 will get 3, P2 will get 2, and P3, well, if you're following along at home, I bet even George Russo can do that math. It is 1 point for P3. So before we get to the line, as they start to line them up, we're going to crack open the Sonic Hard Seltzer, the Melon Medley. Nice picture of a watermelon on the front. First drink and first reaction. Not my favorite, Big Mama Frank. Thanks.
You're welcome.
And,
I'm glad that you got the bad one out of the way.
Yep, tastes like old watermelon, but hey, what are you going to do? All right, so we're going to jump back here. I like to jump around at P5, and tonight it's Major Castleman. P5 on board, get you a pretty good idea of what happens with the front 4. And then usually sometimes you'll see a P6 make a little sneak up. So here they go. 5 lights out. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it is time for the sprint race here in Silverstone. Pretty good start for Lewis Piper. Really good start for Maxime Boulou. Immediately takes the spot from Victor Diaz. Victor Diaz down to P7. Damian Doe gets a pretty decent start. Jack Pemberton, okay start. Blake Reed up into P9 already. Lots of wheel banging, lots of moving around. We do have a yellow flag in Sector 1. We'll find out who that is in a moment. Looks like Tom Hatcap's lost a whole lot of spots. Medium runners out front, going to go at least 10 laps here. A lot of soft runners, I know, Big Mama Frank, talking about only going 3 laps and in for the mediums and try to finish the race with an early undercut. And I think that's probably going to be the best strategy for some of these guys, especially if you're Victor Diaz and you've already lost 3 spots.
I mean, you got it backwards, dude. With this, on this Silverstone, there's basically no tire wear, and we're in a 25% race, so either tire can go the entire race distance, so anybody can pit at basically any time here. And my feelings are, the longer you on the softs, the better you do.
Well, big winners, big losers there. Big losers, Victor Diaz loses 4 spots. Freddie Rizal loses 4 spots. Marino loses 5. Big winner, Jason Pelter, the Gator, up 5 spots. Duncan McCamick's gained 3. Blake Reed up 3. Maxime Boulou gained 2. So Maxime B trying to catch up to his teammate Eric Carvalho there. But Lewis Piper has already extended the gap to 1 second over Rhapsody. So Lewis Piper with a really good getaway. Now DRS will not be enabled for another lap and a half, give or take, for these front runners. At the beginning of lap 3 it will be enabled, but the front runners won't actually get it until the second DRS zone. So Lewis Piper, if he can extend this lead, will not have to worry about that. But then Eruption is going to be all over the back of Eric Carvalho here. And they're going to be trading that DRS back and forth. And the more they fight, the more Peter Giordano and Maxime Boulou can get into this fight.
Yeah, the issue with kind of this track is once we get into this third lap, even though you're kind of fighting towards the lead, if you're in a train, you want to be first or second. If you're in third or behind or further than that, you're basically stuck in the train. Just because it's so hard to overtake the guy in front of you who has DRS. So it's really, the fighting is really only at the front of the train, but for the most part, but it still is possible to make things happen. But with kind of the grid we have where everyone's so fast, the faster you get with average pace like this between drivers, kind of the harder it becomes to overtake each other because there's just not that much discrepancy between everyone's pace.
Well, the thing that will make a big decision on how this shakes out is going to be penalties. Right now, 4 warnings each for Major Castleman, Freddie Razzle, Barney Goatmere, and Tom Hatcap. 2 for Blake Reed, 1 for Duncan McCamick, now 2 for Duncan McCamick. So several drivers on the verge of a penalty already, and we're only on lap 2.
Well, Major Castleman, 4 warnings, so I'm assuming that just means he bumped a few people at the start of the race. A lot of 4 warnings. Maybe it's just the telemetry is just double warning people right now.
Oh, Major Castleman is into the pits early. So like you said, you can go, the longer you can go on the softs, the better you're going to be. So Major Castleman with the early undercut, lap 3 comes in, or just before the beginning of lap 3, comes in early, so he is going to finish out on the soft. Unfortunately, it's going to pip him all the way down to P18, so he's going to have to deal with some traffic when he comes out and catches up to the back of the pack, down now into P19, potentially dropping to P20 depending on Tom Hatcap's pace. Looks like Major is going to make it out just in time to be ahead of Tom Hatcap, so interesting early call there. Actually, Major does go down to P20.
Yeah, when you're the first one to pit, that's basically what's going to happen. However, he does have clean air now, and he can kind of just beat air. If he has the pace to beat everyone, he can make up a lot of time.
Just got word from the Red Bull garage. Duncan McCamick, unhappy with the car in the wet, spun 3 times during qualification. That is not typical for him. Like Victor Diaz and Jack Pemberton have just traded spots there. Jack Pemberton showing a lot of pace today, ready to impress the team principals and either keep that Aston Martin seat or try to move up to a quote unquote bigger team. But really, there's only so much further up he can go. Aston Martin may be ahead of McLaren when we figure out the combined constructors, and looking maybe for a Ferrari drive. Well, here in D1, it's probably going to be Ian and Peter Giordano again. Eruption and Eric Carvalho both into the pits on lap 3. That was kind of when I expected some of these guys to start coming in off the medium tires, and that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah, I think they both recognize that Lewis is just gone on the current strategy. The only way they can catch him is if they go into the pits and just put in some really nice laps before Lewis puts pits. But I think we will expect him. It's easy to anticipate him here to pit to kind of cover off everyone who boxed behind him. But right now he's so much faster than everyone else.
All right, Richard asked for trap map and telemetry. There's a reason we're not doing it right now. We're wanting to see if we can get this AWS graphic to pop up. That was really kind of cool, and it would show like a head-to-head of the driver's tires. We're trying to determine how exactly to trigger it because it never shows up at ours. So we're going to give it another lap or 2 here, and I promise I will pull it up if it doesn't pop up, which it looks like it's not going to anytime. Peter Giordano, by the way, 2 seconds back from Lewis Piper, but has now broken the DRS for Maxime Boulou, unless Maxime could do something really significant here on the exit from Beckett. He's already passed the DRS zone, so he's going to drop further back, but Damien Doe is going to have that DRS, and here comes the Alfa Romeo around the outside of the AlphaTauri. Does not get the move done, or does he? Let's see. Coming down into Vale, they are side by side. Lewis Piper into the pits, Maxime Boulou into the pits as well. So Damien Doe is your net P2 right now. Duncan McCamick, one of our first penalty pickers, as he picks up a 3-second time penalty. Well, I'm tired of waiting for the AWS graphics, so there you go, folks. There is your telemetry, there's your track map, and there is your lap information. So let's see who's going to come out. Lewis Piper, can he come out ahead of, who was it that pit first? It was Major Castleman. Major Castleman currently sat in P20, coming out of Vale right now around Club Corner. It's going to be very tight on the exit. Major Castleman goes fastest lap here. Let's jump on board with Major Castleman. Where'd he go? P15. And where does he come out? Well, he does come out ahead of Maxime, but behind Lewis, Eruption, and Eric Carvalho. So the undercut did not work quite as well as he was anticipating. So right now he is net P4.
Yeah, right now I think Eruption actually just passed Piper, so his undercut has worked. Now they're side by side. And Eruption has the net lead of the race now.
Really nice quick move there for the young man filling in. Well, here they go, side by side. What can they do here? And Lewis Piper takes the spot back. Eruption's not done with him yet, but this is a really good fight between these two right now.
Yeah, we're seeing everyone else starting to pit also. I think everyone's recognizing that if they stay out for too long, they're going to get undercut. Because if people start pitting in bunches, then those people are going to be in a train. And here we go. We have Eruption again takes the lead.
This is what I talked about in the pre-race show. The Hangar Straight and the Wellington Straight. And you have to be judicious on when you trade those up. We saw it in the D2 race last night where we saw a driver check up in the Wellington Straight because he knew if he made the overtake in Wellington on the last lap, then he would get overtaken on Hangar Straight if the pace was the same. And so you got to make a little gamble there that I'm going to be able to keep this pace and take you in the last DRS zone where you're not going to have a chance to overtake me into Vale. And so it's mind games, and it's counting laps when you're trading this back and forth, back and forth. How long do you stay back? How long do you build up that battery? We saw at the very end, Sid with tons of battery and didn't have to worry about anything until Thermo came out of nowhere. And so it's mind games, it's engineering, and the power of a good engineer in a tight race like this, it's invaluable. As Tom Hatcap picks up a 3-second time penalty.
Looking at the battery, Piper, even though he has lost position, he has close to 80% battery, whereas Eruption only is in the 30s. So Eruption definitely has been investing, or has been dumping more battery in order to maintain this position for the moment.
Take a look up front at Freddie Rizal, currently in P3, the second best British driver in ZRL, although he did beat Buzzgod right now, so we may have to revise that. Freddie now, well, let's just ride on board right now, and let's go full cinematic. The first time Freddie Rizal has led a lap in Division 1 in Zoom Racing League, that number 88 Ferrari out front and leading. And we'll give Freddie his flowers right now. He's held on. He's going for the overcut here. But there is Freddie Raz, old Razzle Dazzle in P1 in the 88 Ferrari here at Silverstone, his home Grand Prix. And what a win this would be if somehow he was able to pull this out. All right, that's enough of that. Maxime Boulou goes fastest with a 28.1 and the Scuderia AlphaTauri Honda-powered engine, absolutely flying right now. Jordan Angus is slowly catching up to the back of Freddie here, and there's an enormous gap back to Eruption in P3, the net lead of the race. He's 3/10 clear of Lewis Piper, but I think those two are going to be just trading this back and forth for the next 7 laps.
Yeah, and this is kind of what I mean. When you're third in these trains, like Rhapsody is right now, it can be hard when the other two guys in front of you are really similar pace, because you're just going to constantly swap back and forth and not really give you the opportunity to get involved in that action.
Well, speaking of swapping and back and forth, we saw it earlier. Jack Pemberton took the spot from Victor Diaz. Victor Diaz took it back from Jack Pemberton. And next time around on the Hangar Straight, we may see Jack Pemberton take that spot from Victor once again. So nice little battle back there for P11 and P12. And those points are important for both of those. And so Freddie Razzle leads 1 lap of the British Grand Prix, goes into the pits. Jordan Angus follows him in. So as we come around through the end of Sector 3, around Stowe, through Vale, through Club, onto the Hamilton Straight, it will be Eruption from Lewis Piper, from Eric Carvalho, from Major Castleman, who is out of the DRS and represents the second pack here. On the outside looking in, hopes for a podium, diminishing lap by slow lap.
Yeah, one interval to keep in mind is the gap between Rhapsody and Peter and Major Castleman, because it's been about a second and a half over the last few laps, but it just keeps kind of growing. So when those trains separate, like we've seen in basically every other race, when the trains kind of fall apart, it takes a lot of battling for that train behind to catch up with the lead one.
Lewis Piper with all the battery in the world. It looks like Marino has had a incident coming out of Club onto the Hamilton Straight. Has the car back going again. Those fresh softs not quite up to temperature yet. It looks like Joel Guron dropping down the order. Don't know if he's had an issue. Marino certainly has, though. Let's check in with Marino, and he is off in the gravel. Looks like he lost it there at Farm, headed up towards Village, and spins again on those hot tires. Marino just having a time of it right now in that McLaren machine. But let's get back up front with your leaders. Lewis Piper on the straight here, 2/10 back from Eruption. Can he make the move happen? If you're Eruption, do you defend to the left or the right? I want to go to the right.
Oh, it might be a safety car. Joel Guron was side by side with Duncan, going through Maggots and Beckett's and just went into the wall.
See if we can find. So Marino has retired from the session. Joel Guron, and it is a full safety car. So the only driver with 0 laps right now, only drivers, I apologize, Victor Diaz and Jordan Angus have not put any laps on there. But I don't think there's any reason, Big Mama Frank, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's no reason to come in now.
Yeah, no one should come in. Like we've said before, tire wear is just, it doesn't really exist on this track. As like it does on the rest of the tracks in the game. So 4 laps on the softs, whatever. Like we're looking at the tire wear in our telemetry right now. We have Eruption, its telemetry is off, but we have Lewis Piper with only 15% down to 11% on his tires right now. So that's easy. That he can do that. He can do the last 4 laps easy peasy with this. So I think the only one that might be an issue here is Eric Carvalho and Major Castleman are kind of high up there. We have Peter with only 7% on his mediums, but Major Castleman and Era are both over 20% on their tires already, and they're kind of they are basically the kind of the top of the tire wear board at the moment.
So a little inside baseball here. Took the headset off for just a little bit. I wonder what's going on here with Maxime and Major Castleman. It looks like a little bit of game of chicken. Looks like it keeps showing on the telemetry. They're trading them back and forth here, but they're both still in the right position. A little inside baseball. Wasn't supposed to hear it, but put my headphones back on at the right time. Duncan McCamick joins you here in the broadcast booth right before, and he was saying, and of course it's too late for this to be useful to any of the teams, but about a 0.4 of a second per lap difference between the softs and the mediums. But with the DRS trains, and as tight as the racing here is in Division 1, is that 0.4 real? Is it actually significant in a race scenario?
I mean, I think that the 4/10 is generally like when they're both just zero wear. So I think at this point, because we have guys like Major Castleman and Era who are kind of on the higher end of the wear, they might start feeling that just a tiny bit, and so the mediums may be around that pace. But because there's going to be laps without the DRS, the softs are still going to have a really nice opportunity to have a major factor in creating some big gaps before we have DRS for the final couple of laps.
All right, he said it there, folks. The DRS will not be enabled until 2 laps have been completed after the safety car. So they're going to have plenty of time. All these drivers are going to have 100% battery. As they come back around the line, if the safety car is in this lap, which we expect it to be, it will be a 3-lap sprint. So it is Eruption, Lewis Piper, Eric Carvalho, you may know him as Rhapsody, Peter Giordano, Major Castleman, Maxime B. Now, we put up a poll earlier, and we asked who you were most excited to see. And right now, that man is sat in P2. 40% of you said you were excited to see Lewis Piper race tonight. 25% for Major Castleman. 25% for Rhapsody, Eric Carvalho. I do think part of that may be name familiarity, because most of you have not seen Maxime race here in Zoom Racing League. But here he is currently sat in P6 in the AlphaTauri. And this is a guy that is going to be teammates, most likely with Rhapsody. They're a package deal, much like we saw with Snoop and Connor. Some guys just work well together. They want to be teammates. I will also tell you that in MRL, they are Mercedes drivers. They are both Mercedes Academy. Am I tipping my hand? Maybe.
Well, you will have a pretty high pick, so you should have the opportunity to pick whoever you want, particularly since Duncan has to pick himself. So there's only one driver off the board.
Well, and is there any chance that Duncan does not pick Hudson Poole going into next season after the absolute dominance Hudson has shown? Forensic 54 has absolutely dominated start to finish. Didn't even need to show up for the last race.
I think there is a possibility. It depends on. There are some people that may still join the league before next season, and some of these people are, let me just put it, they're quite competent. So there's a possibility that there may be people that are known to be much faster than the people we have right now, and so they may mix things up when we get to the next season.
All right, safety car in this lap. Speaking of picks and competence, you picked poorly on the first one. We have Orange Pineapple, Ocean Water, or Mango Guava Sonic Hard Seltzers to go. Please give me your choice for the restart, Big Mama Frank.
Mango guava sounds terrible.
Mango guava, yeah, it's probably going to be terrible. Nice, pretty can with a mango and a guava. There's the crack. Here's the drink. Not terrible, not great either, but let's see what kind of restart we're going to get. Eruption waiting till the very last second to go. There he goes. Can Lewis Piper stay with him? Yes, he does. Eruption waiting till the last second. A lot of times you'll see people come out of Vale and just absolutely hammer it right there. No. And he's around. Eruption is around. Lewis Piper into the lead of the race. Eric Carvalho, Rhapsody into P2. Peter Giordano into P3. Major Councilman Eruption is dropped all the way down to P18. He is at the back of the pack, folks, so it is going to be nearly a last to first challenge if he's going to win in the feature race.
Such a great race.
There's another car around. There's Blake Reed in the Haas is around. Eruption gets that spot back. So P17 inherits a position there. Don't know what happened there with Blake, but I'm sure Blake is not very happy as he was racing almost side by side with his teammate. Don't know if that was Haas on Haas violence, but Americans are known for their violent tendencies. But the violence right now is going to be Eric Carvalho gapping Peter Giordano before they get around to the DRS. Almost a 1 second gap already. So it is going to be Rhapsody versus Lewis Piper here for the final 2 laps as they come around through Maggots and Beckett's. Can Eric Carvalho keep up with Lewis Piper? Lewis Piper, the Scottish driver, showing amazing pace right now. Eric Carvalho, one of our 3 Brazilian drivers here in Zoom Racing League, has already broken that gap by more than 1 second. Major Castleman right on the heels of Peter Giordano. Can he stay close enough? If Peter doesn't have the DRS, Major Castleman's going to have a giant advantage here.
Yeah, it's kind of what we were talking about before the safety car restart, man. These softs still have so much life in them. It's just that tiny bit of pace difference between these two compounds are really kind of showing their head right now. Because when you look down the order, also we have Victor and Damien Damien being gapped by Victor, who was also on the same kind of thing, where Victor's on the softs and Damien's on the mediums. So Damien did just get passed by Colin Edwards.
And looks like he's in danger of losing that spot to Jack Pemberton. So Jack, the goaltender, going on the offensive. Good move there. A little bit of wheel-to-wheel, side-by-side contact. Damian Doe loses the position. Damian's not done yet, though. Look at him, folks. Here they go side-by-side. Duncan McCamick tucks up underneath those. He's going to take the inside line. Double overtake for Duncan McCamick around through Brooklands into left field. He's got the spot. There goes Jack Pemberton around. And then the Aston Martin driver is now out of the race, essentially in P15. Duncan McCamick up and away and running into P8. Damian Doe in the Gator, P9, P10. Good showing for the Alfa Romeos, but too much pace from Duncan McCamick, the boss, up into P8.
Was quite the little bunch of traffic we had there.
Jack Pemberton, to add injury to insult, picks up a 3-second time penalty as he tries to get those warm, overcooked tires nice and roasty toasty back into line, and unfortunately the car gets out of line before the tires can get back into it. So here we go, folks. We are coming around to the final lap. It is Lewis Piper. It is Eric Carvalho, DRS enable. Eric Carvalho, fastest lap of the race with no DRS. He's going to have the DRS here. Can he keep close enough to Lewis Piper? He should not, I think, Big Mama Frank, overtake on the Wellington Straight. Stay as close as you can. The Hangar Straight is going to be where the move will happen if it happens. However, Major Castleman also in the hunt for a podium. However, folks, penalties are going to come into play. Maxime Bulio also right there behind. Peter Giordano loses the spot, at least temporarily. Can Maxime capitalize? No. So the two of them will have DRS on them. And Eric Carvalho makes the move early. Early pass there. Is that smart? Is that big brain strategy from Lewis Piper to let him by now so that he knows as he goes through the DRS detection zone there in Maggots and Beckett's, he picks it up early. So the exit of Chapel, Lewis lets it by now. Here goes Era lifting, letting Lewis catch up here. Is he going to slow down? Hey, there's the DRS detection zones. They are now through it. So that is it. Now it's going to be the DRS for Lewis Piper. Probably the big brain strategy there to let him by through left field and Woodcote. And moves over to the side. Does Eric Carvalho. Lewis Piper has the DRS, has a bunch of ERS remaining, and the move done. We're watching from behind. Ooh. And it is Lewis Piper that looks like he is going to get that move done easily. Oh, Eric goes up the inside. Little bit of contact, little bit of a went. Oh, and he spins around, and that's it. Eric Carvalho is out, and he was on for a podium. He was on for P2, potentially the win. Lewis Piper from Major Castleman. Peter Giordano inherits it on penalties. Maxime Boulou pips his teammate. Major Castleman P4. Colin Edwards P5. Damian Doe P6. Victor Diaz P7. Eric Carvalho all the way down from P2 and the potential win to P8 on the contact. Out of the Vale chicane, Jason Pelcher, the Gator, in P9, the boss, Duncan McCamick, P10. Great recovery from eruption from P19 up to P11. The stewards will have a lot to say about that, but there is not enough time in between the races, and so the grid is set for the feature race. I'm going to call out right now Axelized, who told me that this race was going to be a snooze fest. There's Gator, your driver of the day for the sprint race. Axelized told me this was going to be a snooze fest. Folks, that was one of the most exciting finishes to a race we've had in a very long time, and that is exactly the scene we're setting for Season 5. But first, Big Mama Frank, it is a 50% race. These drivers, some of them are hot and some of them are happy, have to do this one more time for twice as many laps.
Oh man, that we kind of saw in the last few corners, man, from Era just sent it on both of those corners, and I think it may have just been quite a little bit too ambitious, man, because he just way too much speed and wasn't making those corners, left no space, so he just may have caused the incident himself with those things. But I mean, shoot, man, it's still nice to see that kind of hard racing though for something that has no consequences for anything.
That was absolutely insane. So, Beard is set for the 50% race. It's Lewis Piper, Peter Giordano on the front row, Maxime and Major Castle on Rochelle, row 2, Colin and Damien on row 3, row 4, Victor Diaz and Eric Carvalho, Jason Pelter and the boss, Duncan McCamick, row 5, row 6, Eruption and Anand Trivedi, row 7, Freddie Razzle up in P13 in the Ferrari, Barney Goatmere in P14. There are a lot of reserves doing a lot of work. And in fact, right now, while we're waiting, we're going to have a minute here, folks. We're going to go away for just a second and we're going to reset the grid. It's going to take a minute to do this manually. If we can, it looks like Forensic is in the chat. Hudson, if you can come up to the waiting room. We didn't get a chance to confirm at the end of the race that he had actually won the Drivers' Championship. And so it'd be nice to take a minute and actually give him a proper interview. And we'll see if we can get him up here in just a second. I assume he's listening as well as watching. And so we'll give him just a minute. Yeah, Hudson Poole in the waiting room. So, dude, you're not driving tonight. But first of all, most importantly, congratulations. A rookie this season, your first season in Zoom Racing League, had a pretty good race. Early damage earlier today in the Grid Finder special. Not racing tonight, but you are the Division 1 champion of Season 4, the final season of F1 2021. And even though you're not racing, it's still got to be a really good feeling tonight.
Yeah, it was really fun. Definitely the best league racing I've ever done in my life. Yeah, I mean, thank you, of course, to the engineers and of course my teammate Duncan. Hopefully Duncan and Eruption can get some good results tonight. Unfortunate sprint race. Yeah, let's see what they can do from there.
So good finish there from the Red Bulls. Duncan McCamick making a pretty good, almost last to first, up into the top 10. Eruption having that bad moment where he spun in the lead of the race and then jumping back from, I think it was P17 all the way up to P11. So they're right there in the middle of the pack. Obviously, a lot of strategy calls are going to be made. But the thing I'm worried about here is what's going to happen at the end of the race. Because if Red Bull jumps Mercedes in the combined constructors, that means that Duncan McCamick's going to have pick number 1. Now, it's just you, me, and the fence post talking here. Have there been any promises that Duncan is going to take you with his first pick in the next draft?
I have no idea what's gonna happen for the next draft. I mean, he hasn't told me anything. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of new drivers here, especially with like Lewis and Era. They're really fast, so I honestly have no clue what's gonna happen. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be actually pretty interesting to see the draft.
One of the things that I'm concerned about for the Red Bull team, let's say you do come back, is you're going to lose potentially the man in the booth with me as he promotes from Division 2 to Division 1. Can you give us a little bit of insight into what kind of help Big Mama Frank has been? I know what he did for us at Mercedes, but can you give us a little bit of insight as to what he meant for you guys at Red Bull?
I mean, he's probably the most supportive person in the whole Red Bull Academy. Always helps you out if you need help with something. Engineers for you whenever he can. Unless he's a commentating. But yeah, I mean, he's really helpful. He engineered for me today in the race earlier at noon, and I mean, yeah, he's one of the most important people that we've had. So if I do get drafted to a team, I wouldn't mind he being on the same team.
Appreciate the nice words, man.
Yeah.
This is something I've always I've thought about, but I never actually asked you, man. So you've got you got your hockey thing going on, dude. Now you got your sim racing thing going on. If you had to sit there and think, which one of those defines me more? Which one am I better at, dude? What would you say, hockey or F1?
I'm not sure. I mean, probably hockey. I
Or
mean,
sir, the
I've been
correct
playing-
answer, Geometry Dash.
Oh, okay. We don't talk about that. Yeah. But I've been playing hockey for quite a while and just started, or not just started, but kind of got into racing. So yeah, probably hockey.
So F122 coming out just around the corner. Is there any change in the game that you've seen that you think is like that's actually going to make it better, or does it just kind of look like a reskin of the current game? What's your thoughts on going into the next season?
I mean, the tracks that I've hated, like Abu Dhabi and Australia, actually look like they'll be really fun to race on. So I think that's gonna be really cool, especially with Spain too. I'm pretty sure they've laser scanned the tracks, at least then the ones that they've updated with big changes. So I mean, that's gonna obviously draw a lot of attention to people that think of F1 as a joke. Like, and it's kind of unfortunate because you see tracks like Spa, they haven't been changed, but you never know. There could be changes later on, and the traction I've heard is a lot different. So it's going to be really interesting to see who comes out on top with the new changes and who can adapt better for the beginning of the next season.
For sure. Well, as a former constructors champion in Division 3 to the two current Division 2 and Division 1 constructors champions, as well as the D1 drivers championship, congratulations to both of you on great seasons, and I assume we're going to see a lot of the same in the coming seasons. Hudson Pool, congratulations. Good race earlier today. Good recovery. Tough race at Canada, but man, it's fun to watch you race, and look forward to seeing you around for many seasons to come, friend. Have a good evening.
Easy.
All right, that's Hudson Pool. That is your driver's champion, and he is also your co-constructors championship with the boss, Duncan McCamick. Speaking of co-constructors championships, Big Mama Frank, so glad I got to pull you in the booth last night. I got to talk to Sid first. Of course, he's the driver's champion. He's the the lead driver, if you will, just points wise. But you were right there in the thick of it the whole time. I think you finished, correct me if I'm wrong, P3 in the driver's championship. I'm not sure whether it was you or Buzzbot.
Thermo should have it since he won the race and scored a buttload of points, and I think I only finished P6. So Thermo is, I think, easily the P3 in the drivers championship.
Well, it definitely could have gone either way, and you had an absolutely great season. And like I mentioned last night, if you go back and watch our draft coverage, if you want to see how we did it last season versus how we're doing it this season, there's some good content in there, some good jokes, a lot of silliness. But go to the Division 2 draft. Go to the beginning of the Division 2 draft and watch the absolute dismay and disappointment on my face when Duncan stole one of my top 3 favorite people in this league, especially in Division 2, right out from underneath me, because I knew what was coming this season. And unfortunately, I didn't get to experience it, and neither did Mercedes. The drivers are back on the grid. We are gridded up, and they are out for the formation lap. 26 laps around Silverstone. Our tension's still high. Is that adrenaline still going from that finish? Yeah, I think it is. If you're Eric Carvalho, if you're Eruption, guys that were on for a podium and a front row spot in this race, and now you're towards the back. You're P8 and you're P11, and you got a lot of time to make up. But you know you've got a lot of pace over these guys. But a lot of it's going to come down to strategy and keeping your nose clean. So your top 5: Lewis Piper, Peter Giordano, Maxime B, Major Castleman, Colin Edwards in the Williams in P5, Damian Doe, Alfa Romeo, shaking it up. We got some what would be considered backmarker teams doing good work here. Victor Diaz, P7, Eric Carvalho, P8, the Gator, I believe we're going to have to crown him the new Mr. Consistent, Jason Pelter in P9, and a pair of Red Bulls, P10, P11. Interesting grid. It's going to be a 2-stop strategy. It looks like most of the drivers are going to be on the softs to start. Big Mama Frank, is that the way you would go with this, or are you going to be like Peter, Eruption, Anand, and Blake, go with the alternate strategy and start on the mediums?
Well, we've kind of seen over the course of the weekend that soft medium seems to be the superior, or I think is easily the superior strat for Silverstone, mainly just because you want to be in those trains early and you want to be towards the front and you want to be able to save your battery, because if you're not in a train, you just fall behind. So by being on the softs, you it helps you kind of stick with the people in front of you. But we did see from Sid, though, if you're just really consistent, you can put in really good laps through the middle of the race and just go long. You can be really fast at the end with those softs. You can make positions up even if you're stuck in trains.
All right, sorry for the lack of anything happening there, folks. Had to do a little background admin type work. Big Mama Frank sent you the new dashboard. So you've got that telemetry enabled, lap data enabled, full track map already enabled. Jump back to P5 like we did, but this time we're going to be on board the Williams Dorilton Ventures Lavalazza Sofina machine of Colin Edwards. Klinsman up in the top 5. Earlier, before the season started, had a chat with Victor Diaz about Klinsman, Colin Edwards. And he told me this dude's got pace. This dude is a good driver. D1's just really super fast, and so he hasn't had a lot of great results. Starting P5, can Colin Edwards capitalize this and bring home some points for Williams? We are about to see, folks, as we get started, for the feature race, 26 laps around the historic British Grand Prix. It is Silverstone. It is 5 lights. It is pedal to the metal, and it is away and running. Colin Edwards does hold on to that spot immediately. Oh no, it is an absolute disaster at the beginning. Victor Diaz goes across the front of Colin Edwards, and he is absolutely done and out of the race. What happened there? No, it was Major Castleman. Victor Diaz up into P7. Eric Carvalho moving up. Peter Giordano's lost a spot on the medium tires to Maxime. So it is Lewis Piper, Maxime, Colin Edwards, and Major Castleman. Absolute disaster at the start. Major Castleman looks to have just lost traction and went right across the nose of the Williams, and that is the worst way to start a race.
Man, we had Colin all the way up in P5. He has wing damage. Major Castleman all the way up there has wing damage. Blake Reed has wing damage. Anand Trivedi has wing damage. So those guys basically, man, that's rough. But it looks just like the sprint race though, with Piper just running away from the rest of the field right out of the gates.
Yeah, great start from Lewis Piper, an absolute disaster. I hope I wasn't any sort of cause of that, just bragging on the Williams and being proud of Colin Edwards. But now we're gonna have to see, what kind of minerals he's made of. What kind of recovery can he make here? This is a very difficult track, very difficult group of people to make it that big of a recovery. Guys already dumping ERS on the first lap. Here goes Jason Pelter. The Gator chomping already, gonna make that move stick inside of Victor Diaz. He might be just a little bit too heavy on the brakes. Victor Diaz side by side with him as they come through the Vales chicane. Jason Pelter has to run a little bit wide, but he does have the advantage of the inside. There's a move made for him. Duncan McCamick started in P10, up to P6. Big move there. Victor Diaz is taking that spot again. Jason Pelter has lost 2 spots there. He had that nice little side-by-side battle, but here comes Eruption. Eruption is not going to let that go. Our Austrian driver, our only Austrian driver, all the way from down under, mate. No, wait, wrong country. Currently sat in P9. Little bumping and banking. Loses the spot to Barney Goatmere. Barney sends him around. Oh, a little bit of an entanglement, and Eruption is around and gone, and he is falling back down the order. Does he reset to track? And no, he doesn't. He gets it turned around on his own, and that's a lot of lost spots.
That was a little sus. To be completely honest, from
Stewards
Barney.
will definitely be taking some looks at that. Barney a little bit aggressive, probably expecting some ghosting there. I don't know if Barney spun him on his own or if the spin was already happening and Barney tried to drive through it, but that was not a good look. Barney's had some issues in the past, just served a quali ban in Division 3, so there's going to be some probably tempers flaring after the race, but still time for Eruption, who is as fast or faster than most of this grid, to make up some spots there. After 1 lap on those medium tires, he's going to be on the slightly slower tire until the round of pit stops, probably around lap 12, Big Mama Frank, on the mediums.
With this kind of strategy, I think Eruption is going to think about going really long and potentially hoping for a safety car or just be able to just be really fast at the end. Kind of go with the same kind of strategy we saw Sid go last night, because Eruption was kind of the brains behind that strategy.
Jack Pemberton looking to take this spot from Barney Goatmere. DRS will be enabled this lap. Lewis Piper goes fastest with a 29.1, a really good race pace lap. Big Mama Frank, my best quali lap isn't even quite that fast. So this dude is absolutely flying right now. And already 1.8 seconds up from Maxime. We're looking at what's going to be the next move in the DRS. Now that they have it available, looks to me like it's going to be Jason Pelter on Victor Diaz. 4/10 back. Can he do anything here on the Wellington Straight? Here comes Jason Pelter down the inside. Nothing that Victor Diaz can do there. Has to run a little bit wide side-by-side action, but Victor Diaz is going to hold on to the spot through Brooklands, around Luffield, through Woodcote, and the Mercedes driver going to stay just ahead of the Alfa Romeo driver for this lap. However, there's still the Hangar Straight yet to come. But wait, Jason Pelter down the old GT3 straight, the old pit straight, makes the move stick with no DRS. What a move from Gator. I did not see that coming.
He just kind of came out of nowhere from Victor's POV there. That's one heck of a move.
I am glad I did not move the camera, folks. That was a heck of a move. A little bit of a desync there as the 2 cars suck up to one another. Victor Diaz trying to get the slipstream. A little bit of ERS, a little bit of DRS, and nothing doing there. Gator's going to hold on to that spot. Gator chomping at the bit right now, up into P7. His teammate into P4. This would represent an amazing finish for the Alfa Romeos if they can hold on to these spots till the end of the race, and we hope they do, folks, because that would be great for Donnie Three Putts, Mr. Buffalo Trace, the Alfa Romeo team principal, in the chat cheering his guys on.
Well, I mean, that's the benefit of this track also is, like, if you can get yourself in a really nice position track-wise, you you can just ride the train out for the rest of the race and finish better than you may otherwise be capable of.
Oh no,
Although, I
Jack
mean, I don't
Pemberton.
Oh, dang, yeah.
What happened to Jack Pemberton? He went around, ghosted Freddie Rizal, and Eruption drove through him. Sorry, back to what you were saying. Just saw Jack go around. Was a little concerned he might be out, but he is still in it. So, yeah, track position, penalties, a lot of huge players in what's going to happen there at the end of the race.
Ooh, and we have Marino around. I think he bumped the wall. Yeah, he broke his wing, so he's gonna have to pit.
So not a great start for the McLaren drivers. One killing, one getting killed. Pair of murderers on our hand. One murdering himself, the other murdering Eruption. Potentially don't want to take sides yet in case there's an appeal and I have to make a decision on it. Big Mama Frank, one of our stewards, also might have to make a ruling on that as well. So we'll stay as impartial as we can, but it's definitely Barney's fault.
Absolutely, 100% Barney's fault. That's the only conclusion anyone of reasonable mind can come to. So.
And we are nothing if not reasonable here in Zoom Racing League. Folks, so glad you're here with us tonight. Been an absolute banger so far. An exciting wet qualifying, words I never thought I would say. A brilliant sprint race. Lots of drama. I think there's going to be a lot of highlights we can clip for an off-season highlights package, if you will. A lot of me yelling and drinking, which is always fun. But we still have another 22 laps to go as there's another yellow flag in Sector 2 for the Haas of Blake Reed. Marino calls it quits. The Italian driver pulls into the pits and parks it on lap 5. Now, historical note that I went back and I watched part of the season 3 race here where Travis Robinson put it on pole and Duncan McCamick was sat in P2. Razor Senna was P4. Joel Garon P3. The podium was Travis, who's not here. Duncan was in P2. His teammate at the time, Jack Fletcher, was in P3. Jack is not here in the AlphaTauris. We're riding on board with Eric Carvalho. So can we see potential Honda dominance again? That was a Red Bull and 2 AlphaTauris on the podium last time around here. Also of note, the first safety car was at lap 4 when these guys are sweaty fighting each other as Blake Reed has also DNF'd. Will this be a safety car on lap 5? Will we have almost a mirror image of the last race? It looks like Blake has retired in the pits. Eric Carvalho looking down the inside, gets the move done on Damian up into P4, sets his sights now on Peter Giordano in that Ferrari.
I mean, credit to Peter for being able to stick with Maxime for this entire duration of the race so far with the medium tires. So as long as he can sit right behind Maxime until Maxime pits, it's going to put him in a really nice position towards the end of the race.
Duncan McCamick already up into P6 from P10, holding that spot well in the DRS of Damian Doe, but 2.5 seconds back is the Gator, and here comes Victor Diaz. Victor and Pelter traded these spots earlier momentarily, then traded them back. Got a great exit earlier, did Jason Pelter here out of Luffield and through Woodcote. What's going to happen this time around? Will we see more of the same? That yellow in Sector 1 is now gone for good. Blake Reed's car finally cleared of the track. And just look at the exit there. Look at the exit from Jason Pelter. Just absolutely gapping Victor Diaz in that sector of the track. I don't know if that's a matter of how they have their cars set up, if it's a matter of the level of traction control they're using, but Pelter just gets a great exit through that sector, and it's all Victor can do to hang on to the back of the Gator here.
Well, he was a little bit sloppy through Magnus and Beckett's there, but I think the difference right now is Pelter is just blowing all of his battery. He's under 10% now, whereas Victor is almost at 70% now.
Woo, this is getting spicy here. And there goes Eric Carvalho down the inside of Peter Giordano. So it was a couple of Hondas trying to squeeze and box Peter Giordano. Peter does temporarily hold on to the spot. A little bit of contact from Maxime. And so the AlphaTauri is doing absolute work. I called it at the beginning. These two drivers are absolutely insane. They are at the top of MRL. If you guys know anything about sim racing, if you know anything about esports level competition, Maxime and Eric Carvalho is as good as anyone you're going to see anytime soon on your YouTubes, on your Twitches. And here they are. Peter Giordano, former 2-time champion. Eric Carvalho takes the spot. Maxime right behind him. The AlphaTauris working together.
That's Tom and Eruption and Jordan Angus got tied up, and Jordan Angus went off, and Eruption was slow also, and he kind of lost a DRS on that train. So both of those cars just kind of ran into each other in the exit of turn 4 there.
Definitely not what you want to see right here. If you're Victor Diaz, you got a Barney Goatmere, Jason Pelter, and a Joel Guron. Joel Guron taking the spot from Jason Pelter there. We mentioned Pelter's absolute great exit out of Luffield and into Woodcote. Joel doing him one better, and Joel taking that spot and moving up. Jack Pemberton takes the spot from Freddie Razzle in 13th spot. So 9 and 13 for the Aston Martins. They are currently most concerned. Their fight is with the McLarens. Marino out. Barney Goatmere out. Potential penalty incoming depending on how the stewards rule. Barney Goatmere going up the inside of Victor Diaz does take the spot. Barney Goatmere, a D3 Mercedes driver, P3 in that championship, showing great pace right here, but he's got to clean up the racecraft just a little bit as Joel Guron starts to look at Victor Diaz as well.
Yeah, we kind of see that gap that's formed in front of Barney right now. It's just all that battling between all these cars. It just costs them so much time, and it's going to really hurt when everyone starts pitting.
All right, Eruption is back up to his starting position. After that spin, he had moved down to P15 temporarily. He is back up to P11. That's where he started the race behind his teammate, Duncan McCamick. Duncan, on the other hand, all the way up to P5. So far, only one driver with a penalty. Several drivers with warnings. Eric Carvalho, Peter Giordano, Damian Doe has 6 seconds of penalties. But everybody else running a pretty clean race so far.
So I think that our telemetry is actually double reporting warnings right now, so he's only at 3 seconds. So if you just see 2 warnings, he 1 warning and vice versa.
Take a look at the penalties. It is a 3-second penalty, so you're right. It is double reporting. That's weird, and we will definitely get with Tabad on that, our wonderful French engineer that has provided this great telemetry tool that helps us as broadcasters, and more importantly, helps our drivers make good decisions and helps their engineers help them make good decisions. Peter Giordano, can he do anything here? No, I think he's too far back from Eric Carvalho to make anything happen. Can Maxime capitalize on that gap? Still a little bit far back, dumping a lot of battery all the way. He's smoked his battery already on lap 8. And Big Mama Frank, I don't know that that's a great idea. And there it is. It's because he was pushing to come in. Lap 7, Maxime Bulu is going to come in early to get off the soft tires at lap 7, or 7 laps in. So lap 9 begins. Freddie Razzle, 3-second time penalty. So Maxime going to go onto the mediums, the first of our soft runners onto the medium tire. Let's see where he slots out. If there's any moves that are about to happen here. Nothing happening anytime soon. Jordan Angus also into the pit with that wing damage. No wing change for Maxime. He puts on the medium tires and comes out ahead of Joel Guron, ahead of Jordan Angus, but consequently, the beginning of the start, terrible for Major Castleman, and he is going to be stuck in P16. He's not going to be able to make up that gap here, so going to be still fighting at the back is Major Castleman.
Man, we haven't really mentioned it in a while just because it's been just an absolutely dominant showing, but Piper has built his lead up to 4.6 seconds to Arrow in P2, so he's actually just running away with this race.
Well, Honda Power putting on a show right now. Duncan McCamick all the way up to P3, takes the spot from Peter Giordano, and is now hunting down Eric Carvalho and seems to be catching up to him. So Rhapsody, I don't know how much team-to-team communication is happening. Rhapsody and Maxime tend to use their own engineer, and as far as I can tell, are not in our Discord currently, so it's going to be very difficult for Honda to speak to one another. Maxime goes to the inside, defends well. Duncan McCamick's going to have to be happy with P3 right now, but if you started the races, they both go in, both Honda cars in, so it is Peter Giordano into the net P2. Lewis Piper stays out. He just keeps extending and extending. There's no reason for him to come in. He can undercut as much as he wants to because he has an enormous gap right now. 5 seconds back to Peter Giordano, and Barney Goatmere, the next one, even kind of close to him. The first one to come off of the soft tires, you're going to have to correct me if I'm wrong here, was Maxime. Maxime's all the way back in 13th. I think Lewis already has that covered up as far as the gap.
Yeah, Lewis is just so far out in front, he can basically do whatever he wants at the moment. His pace is still so... I mean, I would assume his pace is going to be strong, even if he decides to stay out for a couple more laps, that he has... he's built himself quite a cushion to work with, so that any mistakes... We have Jack Pemberton going slow.
Looks like he doesn't have any damage to his wing, but it had a little spin. You got to be real careful with these tires, especially this tricky section right here. It's very easy to lose it as you go through Village, the loop, down Aintree, through the Wellington Straight. It's easy to lose it in these next couple of corners as well. If you're not careful and you're keeping an eye on that tire temperature. Duncan McCamick, Maxime Bulu is out of this session.
That might, yeah, safety car. That's going to mix things up quite a bit.
See if we can see what happened. I don't see Maxime's car. Looks like he lost it on the exit to Aintree, which is a very strange place to run wide. Occasionally you'll run wide there and pick up a penalty, but to absolutely lose the car, I've seen that happen in a GT3 car. But Aintree, you carry so much speed as you cut that corner there. It's occasionally you'll see him run wide, but to absolutely lose the car into the outside wall, it's a very odd spot to lose it.
It really is. I think the people that this hurts most are the alternate strat. Peter getting a 5-second penalty going into the pits. That's going to stink for the end. Hopefully he didn't get bumped in. But so guys like Eruption and Barney and Peter, I think they all have to pit here and try to go on softs for the last 16 laps.
Well, bad news for the Constructors Championship, the owner, the D1 admin, and well, actually, I'm going to talk about that in a second too. He's no longer the D1 admin. We have a new D1 moderator. We'll talk about that in a second. But the team boss, Mr. Duncan McCamick. Maxine, no. I'm sorry if that's me. So Honda on Honda violence. Duncan McCamick killing Maxime potentially. He's bringing that up, not us. We didn't see what happened. Drive-through penalty for speeding under the safety car. So Duncan McCamick probably kicking himself right now. Back-to-back potential mistakes. And not something we see a lot from Duncan unless it's at Mexico where he's picking up 30 seconds of penalties. All that being said, we'll reset the order here. Barney Goatmere stays out. 10 laps on the medium tires. Nothing to lose here for Barney. Try to extend, see if you can make some spots, get some points from McLaren, maybe impress Adam Klein. Lewis Piper onto the medium tires. Peter Giordano on the softs. Eric Carvalho mediums. Eruption up into P5 now ahead of Duncan McCamick on the medium tires. Damien Doe, Joel Goron, Victor Diaz, Jason Belter round out your top 10. I brought up the D1 administration. We've made a couple changes. I am no longer the D3 moderator. I'm still the admin for D3. I'm still an admin for the league, but I'm primarily going to be focusing on broadcasting, partnerships, and marketing. Ethan Patel is now taking over as your D3 moderator, and I am joined in the booth right now by the new D1 moderator, the guy that's going to be overseeing a lot of what happens in Division 1, and we didn't have to add anyone to the booth. It is Big Mama Frank putting on yet another hat. He does a lot of engineering duties. He is a steward. He broadcasts. He decided to go on and put on one more hat as the D1 admin, but knew what his limit was and declined picking up a team principal slot. So D1 admin, you're gonna be taking on some new responsibilities. You're also gonna be racing in D1. So dude, you're doing a lot for the league. And I can tell you from my perspective, and Duncan will agree, like it means a lot to have guys like you that step up and do so much to keep this league going.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I joined the league, I remember looking, when I started to look for a league to do, I just had been recommended several times to, if you want to be fast, you should join a league. So I'm like, okay, I joined a league. And so here I am. I mean, I didn't expect to, I don't know, get so involved and kind of get so caught up in it, but I'm thrilled that I found you guys and I get to be a part of it. So I've had a blast since joining. Yeah,
my experience was exactly the same. A little over a year ago, the Reddit Grand Prix was formed. Duncan formed it on Reddit, started selecting people off of Reddit, trying to get them in the Discord, and I was late to the game. I was one of the last drivers to join Division 2. It was me and the Drip Israel, who you saw on our pre-race show. As Duncan's losing spots here, what happened to Duncan? He is off track, may have had a little lazy spin on his own. 5-second penalty for Freddie Razzle for running into the back of Jordan Angus, but decided to join the league on the whim. I had just finished my MBA. I had just bought myself a gaming computer and a wheel and pedal setup, was getting off the Xbox, off the controller, and decided I want to try league racing. Found the Reddit Grand Prix, reached out to Duncan. He sent me over to talk to Adam. Adam's like, hey man, yeah, we'll try to get you in. You can reserve an Aston Martin. Duncan McCamick pulling off the track, letting people by. Not sure exactly what's going on here, if he's distracted by something else. Kind of odd. I don't know if he's getting messages to let people through. Anyway, so I decided to join the league. Hey man, I'll give this a go. Yeah, Donnie 3 putts, Buffalo Trace. We dubbed Big Mama Frank, absolutely. Severe collision. Damien Doe running into the back of Victor. Or actually, it'd be the other way around, right? Victor would have ran into. I don't know. The game's stupid.
We are seeing. I don't know. The safety car has been quite a mess.
Yeah, safety car in this lap. I'll wrap this story up. So I decided to give league racing a go as Duncan McCamick pulls off yet again and lets somebody else through. I guess. Punishing himself for the incident with Maxime, trying to do what he thinks is right and fair in his mind. So anyway, joined the league, immediately got put in as a reserve, was absolutely terrible at the game, had a great teammate in Drip, and told the guys, like, man, I don't think I could do this. They're like, stick it out. And I DNF'd every race of that season until the last one. and I came in P9 and scored 2 points in the very last race of season 1 of Zoom Racing League. They needed somebody to take over D3. Duncan McCamick. Oh, Duncan McCamick has a drive-through. That's what he's doing. He's letting everyone through so he can serve his drive-through as the race restarts. So we're going to jump up front. Barney Goatmere gets a pretty good gap on Lewis Piper. Lewis Piper is going to be on the tire advantage and take that right back. But here I am, sat in D3, sat in a broadcast seat, and didn't think I'd be doing any of this. And so, Big Mama Frank, you've taken on even more responsibility and roles than I have and most of our league has. And, dude, it means a ton, and we thank you for that. So we are now at the halfway point of the race of lap 13 of 26 Silverstone. We got 2 flavors left to try. And our sponsor for this race, unofficially, of course, Sonic Hard Seltzer. We have orange pineapple and ocean water remaining. Big Mama Frank, please choose my poison.
Yeah, I do like pineapple.
Orange pineapple it is. A nice red and orange and white can. Big Sonic logo. Lewis Piper rocking that Sonic blue in the Alpine vacuum cleaner. Should get the move done pretty easily on Barney Goatmere. Going to have a huge advantage as far as the pace. Will not have DRS for 2 laps. And there is the crack, and here is the sip. That's actually pretty good. That one is actually pretty decent. Orange pineapple is a win. I do like citrus flavors, though. Barney Goatmere really close to the back of Lewis Piper. As Lewis Piper gets the move done and is going to try to run away here. Barney Goatmere. So here's the deal. Lewis Piper was the Ferrari Academy, became Alpine Academy. That's not supposed to happen right now. So I'm not sure how that happened, folks. So Barney Goatmere not going to be doing any favors for Lewis Piper by holding up Peter Giordano. Peter Giordano needs to get on with this race. Eric Carvalho needs to get on with his race. Eruption really needs to get on with his race. Joker on up to P6. Really good showing from him so far. Victor Diaz, pretty consistent. Been in the top 10 a lot this season. In P7, Damian Doe, Jason Pilter, Jack Pemberton, the other Aston Martin. Now, why do I bring all that up? It's crucial for the combined constructors. Barney can hold these guys up and potentially score some points at the end of the race for McLaren, but it's not going to do them a lot of good because they only have 1 car in the race. So right now, it looks like we're going to have Aston Martin move up to P3 or P4 in the combined constructors, and they're going to be fighting with the big boys for draft picks.
I wonder if this is why Barney stayed out. Like, is he trying to hold people up? Like, because it's certainly not a strategy that's going to earn him any places. I mean, outside of the fact that Duncan and Raz are just so far behind because of drive-through penalties, I don't see how Barney finishes in front of anyone else except for them.
So Barney does let Peter go, moves over wisely to the left, lets Peter have the inside gap. So Peter can now begin to attempt to chase down Lewis Piper. But we've seen it on the start. We saw it at the start of the sprint race. Lewis Piper already at a 1.8 gap. I don't think Peter's catching him unless something miraculous occurs or we see the very first mistake that we see from Lewis Piper. I think right now it is his hand to win, even though Peter is on the quicker tire. Lewis is just so quick. I don't know that there's much that can be done. Eruption looks at a move inside Barney and backs out for some reason. He's got the pace. I want to assume that he's thinking Peter is going to make that gap happen and that he's going to have the DRS and an easy overtake on Barney. 0.6 back now is Barney Goatmere from Peter Giordano. 0.7, 0.8 coming up right about now, potentially. No, Barney's still within 0.6, runs a little wide at Cobbs, jumps back on track quickly, can't do that too many times, risk a penalty for sure, but Barney through the DRS zone here is going to maintain the DRS, but Eruption only 0.2 back from Barney. Huge tire advantage already on the battery, and here he goes. Can he get this move done around Barney Goatmere? They both have the DRS, but Barney is going to hold on to the spot temporarily from Eruption, but right now, not really much damage done. The championships are wrapped up, but Barney just kind of setting a pick right here for who knows what reason.
Yeah, so I guess one thing with Eruption is he knows he has a tire advantage, and he knows that everyone around him has penalties. And I'm assuming at this point he knows that he's not going to catch Piper at any point this race. So he's just trying to be patient and just waiting for the right moment.
Freddie Rezel reset to track quickly because he is stuck. He somehow gets it unbeached. Almost had a Revis Baku moment there. It looked like he was stuck in the barrier as he sent it around through cops. Just a little crazy inside spin there. His tires are super hot. Got to be careful not to pick up a couple more penalties here as you cut through Maggots and Beckett's. Yellow flag because he's going so incredibly slow. I assume he's missing the front wing, and he is. So no wing on the front of that Ferrari. And not a good chance to pick up great points here. Freddie Razzle started out the race great. Not so great at this moment.
It seems to be something we've seen a lot. I mean, Raz has definitely had kind of a rough season because he did the swap to wheel from pad while also moving up a division. So that is a really big challenge. But at the same time, he's kind of had somewhat of an issue where he'll qualify decent and then he'll just kind of flame out in the race. So I think a little bit more time, a little bit more practice with this wheel, and he should be able to get that straightened out.
Well, I think the biggest thing for him was he finally listened to everyone in the league. He was driving on wheel with no forced feedback. And that's the whole point of a wheel, is the precision of the input and the feel that you get. You know, those of us that actually can drive, Freddie, I don't think has ever driven a car, and he doesn't understand that you feel so much through the steering wheel, and particularly through your butt in a car, so you know exactly what's going on. And if that steering is just light and there's no response at all, it's basically just a giant controller at that point, and there's no real advantage. Colin Edwards out of the session. Looks like he retired in the pit lane, and Barney Goatmere goes around, and Barney's out of the session. That's got to be another safety car right there, as that is McLaren out of the race completely. Virtual safety car.
Yeah, VSC.
VSC. So everyone will have to move down to about 60% of their pace. Eruption, meanwhile, gets that spot from Barney Goatmere, but not in the way we were expecting.
Yeah, Barney just, I guess, just sent it on the throttle there and just spun right into the wall. So that was a very interesting looking incident there.
So Eruption 2/10 back. So if you're Eruption, you're watching that Delta and you're creeping up as much as you can to Peter Giordano, because when this thing goes live, I don't think the DRS, depends if it went right now, he would get through the detection zone and be able to have the DRS. So he will not have DRS if the race goes back live now. So we've lost 5 drivers. Barney Goatmere in the McLaren filling in, out. Colin Edwards out. Drive-through penalty for Jordan Angus, ignoring the Delta, speeding under the virtual safety car. Maxine Bulu, a little tangle with Duncan McCamick, allegedly, according to Duncan, out. Marino, the other McLaren, out. Blake Reed had a little bit of a tangle potentially with his teammate, Anand Trivedi, Beamer and G, also out. So we're down to 15 drivers here. Freddie Razzle, P17, got the new wing on, catching back up to the pack. Because he would have a larger delta because he was in the pits when it happened, he's able to catch up a little bit to the pack. But right now it is Lewis Piper with almost a 2-second gap. We're going to keep our riding on board with Eruption and see if he can dispatch Peter Giordano here in the next 2 or 3 laps. 9 laps to go, folks. Well, 8.5 at this point. It has all come down to this. This is the last season. If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe. Give us a comment. Lewis Piper is absolutely dominant. So let's talk about P2, P3. We got Peter Giordano, Eruption, Eric Carvalho, Joel Guron, Victor Diaz, Jason Bilter, Damian Doe, all potentially in the fight. Tell us who your top 3 are. We know it's Lewis Piper on the top step, assuming he doesn't make any mistakes, assuming that he can finish out this race on the set of tires he's on. But tell us who you think is going to be in P2 and P3.
Man, with these penalties, as long as Eruption doesn't make a mistake, he's basically locked for P2 at this point.
Both the penalties right now. 8 seconds for Peter Giordano, 5 seconds for Eric Carvalho, 6 seconds for Joel Guron. Here comes Eruption, absolutely flying. Nothing Peter Giordano can do but sit and watch, amazed at the power of the Honda over the Ferrari. The prancing pony, no answer for the dancing bull.
Looking at the penalties, Eruption has 1 single warning. Lewis Piper just vibing up front with no warnings at all. Eruption snagging that fastest lap. Oh, Raz gets it right back.
Wow, really great lap from Freddie Razzle, competing with the big boys. The D2 driver, the former second best British driver, showing out right now. BuzzGod, where are you at? This guy is coming for your crown, and he is absolutely dunking on you like y'all are playing some 2K right now. He is an absolute paint beast as he goes for the fastest lap, is Freddie Razzle Dazzle.
someone who's benefited quite a bit from the safety car is Major Castman, who was just kind of out of the race by himself in the back, is now back up to P9 and in this DRS train and just riding the gearbox of Damien Doe at the moment.
And huge advantage to him because Damien has 8 seconds. Victor has 3 seconds. Joel with 6 seconds. There is an outside chance, if he can clear Jason Pelter, that Major Castleman ends up on the podium here after an absolute disaster of a start where he just veered left into the Williams of Colin Edwards there at the start of the race. So Major Castleman kept his nose clean after that, kept it nice and tight, no penalties so far. Really great showing so far from the Mercedes driver.
Back towards the front, I mean, Eruption is just going to have. There's not really any way Eruption is going to be able to close that gap because at this point in the race, we're basically starting to see those tires kind of hit their crossing point where the mediums are going to start either being equal or faster than the softs. And at this point, Piper's already shown that it doesn't matter what tire he's on; he's going to be faster than you anyway. So Eruption is definitely, unless a big mistake happens from Piper, Eruption is definitely going to. It's not going to win the race.
Keeping an eye still back here on Major Castleman. The problem for him is he has to clear 2 Alfa Romeos. And so those two are in a call with Buffalo Trace. Donnie 3-putts, talking to his driver, saying, hey, we need these points. We know there's the penalty, Damien. That's fine. We need Pelter to get away a little bit. But if you're Damien, you don't want to just give that up because there's a chance you get that 5-second penalty removed. And if you drop all the way down to, say, P12, P11, something like that, but then you get that penalty removed, now you're back up into P8, P9, and those are very important points for Alfa Romeo in the last race of the season.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, this could be pretty much one of their best finishes for D1 for the entire season if they can hold position. The issue is Damien's penalty will drop him quite a bit with the type of train we have going right now. But still, even if he falls a couple of positions, it's still a really good finish for them.
Doesn't look like there's going to be a whole lot of big movement going on. Joel Guron on Victor Diaz could get interesting and spicy here towards the end. Let's take a look at the two of them. Victor Diaz has a huge battery advantage. Joel Guron nearly took pole from Travis Robinson here in Season 3. Joel has a really great setup. I can tell you from experience, I've driven his setup. It is different from what most people run. Most people run the typical right, left, 1-6, 1-5, 1-7. Joel's setup's a little bit different, and I can tell you it's really stable, really safe, but it's also really quick as well. Freddie Razzle goes off track, resets to track. Temporary yellow there in Sector 1, but Razzle Dazzle still keeping it together. Gonna finish the race and get a couple of points at least for Ferrari.
Raz making Ian proud. Oh, we have Major Castleman and Damien Doe going side by side. Major Castleman getting the run on him.
Nice move. Exact same move that we saw Damien's teammate Jason Pelter make earlier. So it was the Mercedes Alfa Romeo. Alfa Romeo came out on top. This time around, the Mercedes comes out on top of the other. So reversal of roles. Interesting strategy here. Interesting that Damien wasn't able to hold him up a little bit longer. Got confirmation in the chat from Donnie 3-putts that was the strategy, that they wanted Damien to do what he could to hold up Major Castleman. But unfortunately, better exit for Major Castleman, and he is on right now. Joel Guron has taken that spot, at least temporarily, from Victor Diaz. They're going to go side by side through the chicane here. Who's going to get the move done? Victor Diaz is going to hold on to it. Jason Pelter invites himself to the party. So now it is Jason Pelter. It is the Gator and Joel Guron back there going side by side. And there is Damien dropping back. We'll watch on board behind him. Joel Guron behind Jason Pelter. So a nice move from Jason Pelter to get that move from Joel Guron. And Victor Diaz stays ahead temporarily, at least. Jason Pelter, with no penalty, has the advantage here if he can hold on to the back of that Mercedes power of Victor Diaz.
You know, just right after we started talking about the potential podium for Major Castleman, all this battling between Victor and Joel over the last few laps has built a really big gap between the leader of this pack and Era. So the potential podium for anybody in this pack is kind of slipping away because of these battles.
Yeah, Victor way too far back to make anything happen for him, even though there's a 3 and 8 5-second penalty. So he can move up to P4, but too far back from Peter Giordano, I think, to make that happen. But Jason Pelter now inviting himself to the party. Potential top 5 finish here for Jason Pelter in P6. No battery advantage right now over... oh, I'm going the wrong way, folks. over Victor Diaz. Victor has a huge battery advantage, but here comes the Gator. Can he chop as they come down the hangar straight into Stowe? He looks to the inside line, nothing doing there. 4 laps to go. Major Castleman takes the spot from Joel Guron, at least temporarily. Here they go, side by side. Major Castleman does take the spot. So now he's going to go to work on Jason Pelter. Joel Guron drops back his teammate Jack Pemberton in P9. Great showing so far for the Aston Martins. P8, P9. Remember, Joel Guron joined the session late. Did not plan on racing tonight. At the last minute, had to come in, try to make some laps happen in the second half of qualifying. And here he is inside the top 10, leading his teammate in P8.
Yeah, the only issue for Joel is the fact that he has 6 seconds of penalty. So at the moment, he would drop all the way to P11.
Still keeping an eye on this Mercedes versus Alfa Romeo. And folks, I don't think anyone would have expected this at the beginning, but Jason Pelter and Damien Doe have absolutely, the last 2 seasons have been absolute bangers for them. I think they were a little bit slept on, falling all the way down to Alfa Romeo, which is a great team. Absolute wonderful team in the Ferrari powerhouse. These guys have been awesome. They've been super consistent, especially Gator. Starting, I think it was in France last season, all of a sudden we started seeing Gator and Damien just stepping up and just kind of licking their way to the center of the lollipop, to where they're in the fight with the big boys. I mean, we're talking podiums, we're talking top 5 finishes for these guys. And Jason Pelter does get the move done on Victor Diaz. So we have an Alfa Romeo, at least temporarily, in the lead. Victor Diaz takes it back. Here they go through the Vale chicane. And is it going to be a 2-for-1 as Major Castleman tries to get the spot? Also, Victor Diaz holds on at least temporarily, but Gator is in the fight, and he is not going anywhere.
You know, a little bit of a wiggle on the exit there, going down the pit straight. So Major Castleman closed up that gap really quickly, but now Gator is, battery light is flashing. So we may be in danger here on this lap.
All right, we'll see what happens. Half the battery remaining for Major Castleman. Major Castleman. 20% for Jason Pelter. A lot for Victor Diaz. Major Castleman, if you're going to make a move, now's a good time to try to get on with it. Get some DRS from your teammate. Maybe the two of you can hold off the Alfa Romeo. Almost touches the back of the Alfa Romeo. Nice and easy on the brakes there. Got a yellow flag for Freddie Razzle. Once again, Razzle Dazzle doing a little spin, showing the rear end to all sides of the crowd, throwing a little gravel into the popcorn for a good measure, but gets it back on track and going again. A lap down, but still fighting, unlike 5 other drivers that have managed to bend it. So here's Major Castleman trying to get the run on Jason Pelter. Lewis Piper at 2.2 seconds ahead. Eric Carvalho takes the spot from Eruption. Almost missed it, folks, but there it is. Eric Carvalho, 8 seconds of penalties, though. He's going to have to do a lot of work here to make up at least the 3 seconds, assuming he can get the 5 seconds removed. He has not served it, so he's going to have to stay out. 2 laps to go as they cross the line this time around. Eric Carvalho has cut into some of that gap. Only a 2-second lead. It was almost a 2.5-second lead. Eric Carvalho and Eruption, if they can work together, Honda and Honda can maybe catch up to Lewis Piper and make something happen here. But there's not quite enough laps left. They're going to run just out of time, I predict, even though they're cutting into that lead. Major Castleman gets the move done on Jason Pelter up into P6. So now Victor Diaz, a lot of pride on the line. The full-time Mercedes driver versus the Mercedes reserve. Both of them will be getting full points. This is massive if you're Toto Rivas. Let me put on my Toto Rivas hat. Yeah, I expected this. Like, Major Castleman's awesome, dude. What a recovery. I expected him to win. He had the little beginning, whatever. But yeah, this is what we want to see. Travis couldn't be here tonight. Real-life commitments. Dude's burned out. I get it. That's fine. He let me know. He's like, I'm going to try to be there. I got some other stuff going on. I was like, dude, if you can't be here, it's fine. The championship's over. Your mental health, your well-being is way more important than this race. And he's like, cool, I'm going to take off. Well, talk to Duncan, and I got Major Castleman. Great showing last night. Great showing tonight. Currently in P6. And if you're Victor Diaz, do you release Major Castleman to see if he can hunt down Victor Giordano here on this last, or Peter Giordano, Victor Giordano, here on this last lap? And
now, at what point do you think the on-track stewards, in-game stewards, just tell Raz to just retire in the pits? The amount of yellow flags he has been throwing up all by himself.
Well, he could currently do it right now and still qualify on the race. Because there we go. We are starting the final lap. So we'll ride on board with Lewis Piper. We'll see if that gap can close at all. It does not look like it will. So right now, if Major Castleman can close up that gap, it is a potential podium for him. So right now, with the penalties as they stand before the stewards take a look, it'll be Lewis Piper, Eruption, and Major Castleman.
Yeah, there's so many speeding in the pit lane penalties we saw today. So, I mean, this pit entry is very challenging because there's not a lot of markers, and it's really easy for you to just get bumped over the line by somebody behind you. But yeah, it seems excessive for what we're used to seeing from our D1 drivers.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I had to keep preaching. I was able to engineer for the first time in many moons for my Division 3 Mercedes drivers. Oh, we're on the last lap, so we're going to crack open the ocean water here as we celebrate what looks to be a pretty obvious and apparent Lewis Piper Alpine victory. First Alpine victory in Division 1 in many, many moons. But that was one of the things I warned my guys. You got to be very careful. Brake early. Pit limiter on early. Here comes Eruption. Can he make the move stick on Eric Carvalho? Doesn't need to. Wisely backs out of it. Everything to lose, nothing to gain here. You've already got the spot, even if the 5 seconds is removed. So here he comes across the line. It is Lewis Piper in his debut win here for Alpine in Zoom Racing League at the end of Division 1 in F1 2021. It is Lewis Piper from Eruption, from Eric Carvalho. Peter Giordano, Major Castleman jumps up onto the podium in a reserve role after an absolute disaster of a start. Mercedes is back on the third step, not the top step, but good enough. We'll take it. Jason Pelzer, the Gator in P4. Eric Carvalho, Rhapsody in P5. Jack Pemberton, P6. Peter Giordano in Ferrari at P7. Victor Diaz, a top 10 finish for him in P8. Tom Hatcap, didn't see a lot of stuff from him tonight. Kind of a quiet race, but finishes the race in P9. So an Alpine 1-9. Damien Doe, the other Alfa Romeos, both of them in the top 10. There's Damien Doe. Joe Goran drops down to P11. Anand Trivedi, P12. Jordan Angus, P13 in the Williams. Duncan McCamick, the boss. Bad stuff earlier. Drive-through penalty. Finishes in P14. Federico Razel, Mr. Razzle Dazzle, finishes up in the Ferrari in P15. Leading into the clubhouse with 4 pit stops, 5 sets of tire. Driver of the day from P11 to the podium. It is Eruption, the young Austrian driver who had a pretty decent race today in this SIB Grid Invitational, and a guy that should be in D1, but much like Lewis Piper that he shares the top 2 steps of the podium with, will be stuck next season, Big Mama Frank, in Division 2.
It looks like Duncan in the chat, he may have caused one of those speeding in the pit lane penalties, saying that Eric Carvalho should have his 5 seconds cleared. So Duncan kind of a menace on track tonight.
Indeed. So that would actually promote Era back to the podium, I believe. Because Major was 5 seconds back of Jason Pelter and Eric Carvalho. So you clear the 5 seconds. That's interesting. So we may not be done here. We honestly, I want to talk to as many folks as we can. Guys, we've been already going for 2 hours now, so we're not going to stay a long time. But there is your finishing order. The only one you can't see is Freddie Razzle. It's Lewis Piper, Eruption, Major Castleman, Jason Pelter, Eric Carvalho, the man known as Rhapsody, Jack Pemberton, Peter Giordano, the 2-time champ, and then Victor Diaz, Tom Hatcap, Damien Dole, Joel Guron, Anand Trivedi, Jordan Angus, and the boss, Duncan McCamick. Unfortunately for McLaren, no finishers today, so I think that all but guarantees that Aston Martin jumps them in the combined constructors. We'll try to get some folks in here for interviews momentarily. P3, we talked to him again last night. He is a Mercedes reserve, super fast. Big Mama Frank, you had a chance to run some practice laps with him and said, hey man, this guy cannot run in D3. He's probably honestly too fast for D2. Goes and just whips a bunch of rear end in D2, and then comes and gets a podium after a miserable start where we saw the Mercedes go kind of sideways into a Williams. And not sure what happened there, but brilliant recovery. And Major Castleman, it is P3 and D1 on your debut in a Mercedes. How sweaty was that recovery for you?
It was the most sweaty I think I've ever been after a league race. It was A really tough recovery. The start was interesting. Not really sure what happened. I felt like I had plenty of traction. I think there may have been some contact. Because as far as I'm aware, the Williams also had wing damage. So, yeah, pretty interesting. It was a hard recovery. The safety car came out at the perfect time. My engineer made an absolutely gigabrain call to put me on the softs, and from then it was just maximum push, hammer time to the end, and we made it happen.
So I believe we saw. I don't know if I looked at the sorting table or not, because I don't think you're on there yet. Are you able to race full time in Division 1, or are you think in Division 2 is going to be where you end up?
I could do either one. I think today demonstrated that I have easily top 5 pace in Division 1.
Well, we do have a lot of people out, but I mean, you are really quick. I won't want to take that.
All
away
right,
from
all
you.
right. Top 10 then. Top 10. But yeah, I felt very comfortable today. I felt like my pace was very good, despite some mistakes. So yeah, I'm definitely able to commit to a full-time seat next season.
Well, that is going to certainly potentially shake up the draft order. You are a known quantity outside of Zoom Racing League, and very quickly becoming a known quantity over here. That is back-to-back podiums for you. Division 2 and Division 1. We got some really fast drivers in Division 1 that are definitely, or Division 2 that are definitely Division 1 pace. So I think either way, you're going to find a slot, and you're going to find a happy team owner wherever you are drafted. So thank you so much for being here for the 2 races. Congratulations on another podium, and Major Castleman, I imagine we're going to be interviewing a lot more going forward.
I hope so.
All right, we will say goodbye temporarily to Major Castleman. Big Mama Frank, I just closed my window. Eruption was P2, correct?
Eruption was P2.
All right, Eruption, my favorite Australian driver. Good day. Nope. All right, I'm not going to do it this time. My favorite Austrian driver, the only Austrian driver I know. So you have a huge advantage there. But man, first of all, let's talk about this race in a second. Let's talk about SimGrid earlier today. That was a really cool league versus league event. How did you find it? How was the grid? Was that fun for you guys?
Well, the grid was very competitive, I must say, but I kind of got lucky that a lot of people in front of me spun and made a lot of places. And the strategy wasn't the best, but for my situation, it was the best I could do. And we got a great result with P4 and P5, so yeah.
Yeah, it was a tough race to watch from our end, but really glad to see you and Hudson and Rhapsody and Dago all there. Of course, 2 of them representing ORL for that series, but hey, man, they race here too, so we gotta pull for our guys. Another great finish for you. Obviously, great pace. Unfortunately for the guys in Division 2, you're going to be locked to Division 2, I believe, for next season. Do you think Duncan McCormick's going to take you first at Red Bull, or do you think maybe you're going to be changing teams?
First of all, I won't change teams. Then maybe, I don't know. Maybe Sid comes first, maybe me comes first, maybe someone else. I don't know. But I will stay at Red Bull, and yeah, guys, watch out for me in Div 2.
Okay, calling a shot early. Big Mama Frank, you got anything?
I don't, man. I just want to say, dude, that was a great drive. You had that incident with Barney early on in the race, and you were able to come back from that. Was there anything that you had to do differently in order to make that recovery drive as effective as it was?
Well, I tried to close up on the front drivers, then the safety car kinda helped me, so I could pit for new softs. Then the only problem was Barney didn't stop, and then he was ahead of me, and I knew that I was desynced for him, so I was very careful. With my overtake on him. Luckily, he spun, and yeah.
Okay, well that explains kind of how we noticed that in the race that you were driving pretty cautiously around him. So that explains that. That's good to know.
All right, Eruption in the Red Bull on another podium, and folks, you're going to see a lot of that in Division 2. And he called his shot here. He said he's getting drafted back to Red Bull. Could Mercedes be a spoiler in that. Probably not. Probably not gonna draft a driver that wants to be somewhere else and potentially be unhappy. So great drives from what we've seen of you. One controversial finish. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring it up for my guys, but I think we're gonna see a lot of good fights between you, Sid, Johannes, and Lewis Piper, who right now, as our race winner, is locked to D2. So D2 becoming as fast and sweaty as D1. We're gonna see a lot more eruption podiums in the future. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Cheers.
All right. So we mentioned it earlier. D1 is super fast. We get that. We know that. D2 is getting to be as fast as D1. And this man comes out in an Alpine in the blue vacuum cleaner and just smokes everyone. Never in doubt who was going to win the race. It was always Lewis Piper. And we knew from what we saw in Canada how good he was in the wet. And he came out and was just destroying folks. So, Lewis, I got to ask you, like, you have great dry pace, but does the wet even bother you at all? Is it just a just slightly slower track for you?
I think my setup particularly suited the wet a bit more. I felt more comfortable in the wet with that setup, but I like it to change up a bit.
You know, Nat, you mentioned your setup. Since we are basically on the last day and a half of this game, would you like to share what your secret setup was for that race?
I think it was, I can't remember all of it. It was like 7.7 wings, and then pretty high tire pressures. But yeah, it definitely suited the rain much more than it suited the dry.
Well, it didn't seem to slow you down at all in the dry. We were just talking with Eruption. He was P2, you were P1. But Lewis Piper, you're going to be in Division 2, being a Scottish driver, our only Scottish driver, by the way. So congratulations to you. You're going to have a lot of fights with Eruption, but you pretty handily dispatched him tonight. We got a couple other quick guys, Johannes and Sid, maybe some other folks coming on in Division 2. Are we going to see absolute dominance from you in Division 2 when you come into the next season in the new game?
I think the new game will shake it up a bit. You know, new people always come through in different games. Some games, you know, have different handling models which suit people a lot differently. So, yeah, I think it'll be. I don't really think you can tell going into a new game, but you know, I'd like to be fighting up front with whoever.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. When you first joined Zoom Racing League, I believe you were Ferrari Academy. Now you're Alpine Academy. Are those both correct statements?
Yes.
Okay. That being said, they're both terrible. They're awful. Let's put that to the side. Where would you prefer to be drafted? Because right now it looks like the draft order is going to be Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren, or I'm sorry, Ferrari, Aston Martin, McLaren. Do you have a preferred landing spot, or does it not really matter to you? You're just here to race.
Yeah, I'm just here to race. I don't really mind where I go.
Who do you pull for in the real races? Let's ask that question.
I'm a Red Bull guy.
Wrong answer, friend. Wrong answer. All right. Scratching you off my big board. But yeah, another great result. Podium in Canada, win here in Britain. So 2 for 2 on showing up and showing out. Lewis Piper, great work tonight, and look forward to talking to you a lot more in Season 5 here on Zoom Racing League.
You too. Thank you.
All right, cheers, brother. All right, Big Mama Frank, that is it. 8 rounds. We had planned originally on 9, but the release date of the new game cut that off, and we had to drop the Red Bull ring. So back-to-back seasons, we end in Britain. Last time it was full quali and then a race. This time it was a quali, sprint quali, and a race. And both times provided pretty good racing. Very different results. No Travis Robinson tonight. Duncan McCamick not on the podium. Jack Fletcher not on the podium. Things are changing here in Zoom Racing League, but sometimes change is what's needed. Sometimes change is what's good. And Big Mama Frank, the changes that are coming, the changes that are already happening, I think are making things very exciting for the future of this league.
Yeah, I'm excited for the new game. I mean, just being able to, you know, finish this weekend, win a championship for us in D2, basically just win the combined constructors for Red Bull, and then going right into the next game, man, it's just, I don't know, I'm really excited.
Yeah, I am as well. And in fact, I have I put up a poll in the Discord earlier. Do we want to see a return of the worst driver on the grid? No, folks. I'm not talking about George Russell. I'm talking about Toto Rivas. Is Toto Rivas going to return, starting out in Division 4, starting from the bottom, working my way to the top? And the answer is stay tuned. You will find out at the draft. Right now, we are planning on having the draft is somewhere around July 5th. We may wait another week, about 3 to 4 weeks away from the start of the season. We want to make sure the new game comes in with enough cleanliness, enough lack of glitches and desync that we can have clean racing and potentially use the crossplay feature where the shared service so that console players can now get in the game with our PC players. Right now, we're going to continue the segregation. We're going to have Division E. That is our esports division on Tuesday nights. Friday night will be Division 4. Saturday afternoon, our Xbox League, Division X. Saturday night, it is Division 3, Division 2, and then Sunday nights will continue to be Division 1 here in Zoom Racing League. That is 8 rounds. That is 1 season done. That is 1 game done. F1 2021. A lot of folks already uninstalling. If you feel like doing that, that's fine. Pass it on to your kiddos. Invite somebody who's never raced before to play on your account. Get them into sim racing. Get them into the Discord. Get them in to hang out with us. They don't have to play to be here. We got all kinds of casuals to hang out. This is a place where you can hang out, you can have fun, and watch lots of great racing. And we will be back for all the fun, all the excitement, still a schedule reveal, and still a draft yet to go for Season 5 here in Zoom Racing League. Good night, folks.